Chapter 4991. There were many experts gathered here. Once they encountered a strong enemy, their strength would not be enough. Lu Weiyang felt guilty about letting him go first. Lu Ming was very strong. According to Lu Weiyang's judgment, even if he had not broken through twice, he was still a peak existence who had broken through once. With Lu Ming around, they would be much safer. Then we'll wait for you there. Han Yu pointed at a small fragment of a continent not far away. He planned to hide there and wait for Lu Ming to meet up with him. Alright, wait for me there. I won't need much time. I'll be back soon. With that, Lu Ming did not stay any longer. His figure flashed and disappeared. Han Yu, Lu Weiyang, and the others entered the small fragment of a continent and waited. Lu Ming had left for the 2 top-grade soul-level divine herbs. At this time, Mo Kun was leading a group of dozens of elites from the extreme evil tribe. They were gathered together. Many of them were injured. It was obvious that they had been through a fierce battle not long ago. They were now recovering. A few people surrounded Mo Kun. Young master, you're really lucky. You actually obtained 2 top-grade soul-level divine herbs this time. It seems that once the origin tribulation is over, you'll be able to break through to reciprocity soon. An elder from the extreme evil race flattered. Mo Kun also showed a proud and excited smile. This time, his luck was really good. There were at most a dozen top-grade soul-level divine herbs in that divine vein. Many experts from various factions had gathered. There were even many invincible divine lords who had broken through thrice. With his battle prowess, he was nothing compared to the top experts of the various factions. However, he had never thought that he would be able to obtain 2 top-grade soul-level divine herbs while he was casually waiting. If this was not unparalleled luck, then what was it? With 2 top-grade soul-level divine herbs, his cultivation speed would definitely increase greatly. After the origin tribulation, breaking through to reciprocity would not be a fantasy. You've all done a great job this time. I won't forget your contributions. You'll be rewarded when we return. Mo Kun said with a smile. Thank you, young master. The elites of the extreme evil race were overjoyed. At this time, Lu Ming silently appeared above the extreme evil race. After all, Mo Kun was an expert who had broken through twice, so his spiritual perception was extremely sharp. He had sensed Lu Ming the moment he appeared. Who? Mo Kun yelled as he looked into the sky with a sharp gaze. Primitive style. Lu Ming didn't waste any time and wasted no time. He immediately attacked with the primitive style. Furthermore, it was an all-out attack. End the battle quickly. A huge continent was formed, and it carried a terrifying power. It came crashing down on the dozens of extreme evil elites. The wild power swept out and covered all of the extreme evil people. Not good. The scary power woke up the extreme evil elites, who had been healing themselves. They roared and unleashed their strongest attacks toward the sky. However, there weren't too many elites. The strongest was Mo Kun, who had broken through twice, which was equivalent to Guangqian Wang of the primordial light race. There were also 3 people who had broken through once, which was equivalent to the strongest Lord of Heaven. The rest were peak divine masters and 9th level divine masters. Some were even 7th or 8th level divine masters. This kind of power wasn't weak, but compared to Lu Ming, there was a huge gap. More importantly, they didn't have time to set up an array. They actually had a combined attack array, but it took time to set it up. Although the time was short, Lu Ming's sudden attack gave them no time to set it up. Boom! The primitive continent came crashing down, and the destructive power exploded. It hit the extreme evil race with unstoppable force. Bang! 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 The people of the extreme evil race couldn't withstand it at all. They exploded like watermelons. Under the destructive power, their bodies and souls were destroyed. Only their storage bags fell to the ground. Even Mo Kun, who was the strongest, suffered the same fate when faced with Lu Ming's all-out attack. He lasted a breath longer than the others before his body exploded and his soul was destroyed. Lu Ming made a grabbing motion in the air and dozens of storage bags were collected by Lu Ming. At the same time, dozens of divine weapons also landed in Lu Ming's hands. Among the dozens of divine weapons, there were 3 source-level divine weapons. The living beings in the Forbidden Lands could be said to be very wealthy. Just a few divine masters had 3 source-level divine weapons. This ratio was shockingly high. One could imagine that every origin realm being in the Forbidden Grounds must have a source-level divine weapon. Then, Lu Ming took out a storage bag and checked it. This storage bag had been left behind by Moken. Immediately, Lu Ming's face lit up with joy. As expected, he found 2 top-grade source-level divine herbs in Moken's storage bag. The 2 top-grade source-level divine herbs were carefully sealed in 2 jade boxes. However, they were all released by Lu Ming and stored in the primitive ring. Only the top-grade source-level divine herbs could grow freely in the primitive ring, and the source-level divine elixir would be at its best. Lu Ming smiled with satisfaction. This trip to the depths of the cosmic ruins was smoother than he had expected. He had received news of Mulan's and 3 top-grade source-level divine herbs as soon as he had arrived. Lu Ming moved and left the place. Soon he met up with Han Yu and the others. Han Yu and the others didn't ask much. After meeting up with Lu Ming, they set off again. It's brother Zhao Wuji. After flying for about an hour, Han Yu suddenly cried out in surprise. A large number of figures had gathered on a fragment of the continent in front of them. At a glance, there were at least a few thousand of them. And they were all humans. There are so many humans, and their auras are very similar to Han Yu and the others. Their bloodlines seem to be of a higher grade. Lu Ming sensed slightly. He found that these humans all had higher bloodline auras than him. None of them were of a lower grade. It could be said that these people were all dragons and phoenixes among humans. This bloodline seems to be somewhat similar to the Sea Sects, but it seems to be of a higher grade. Lu Ming's mind turned quickly. He thought of the Sea Sect. The Sea Sect was originally a member of the Yen clan of the Heavenly Star continent. Later, by chance, he fused with a drop of the Human King's blood, and his bloodline transformed, giving him the Human King's bloodline. He had long since sensed that the Sea Sect bloodline was of a much higher level than the Sea Sect bloodline. It was almost as if they were kings among men. In the past, Lu Ming only thought that it was because the Sea Sect had fused with the Human King's blood, and that the other humans were the same as him. Now it seemed that was not the case. The human race of the last era had a relatively high bloodline grade. And his bloodline was an inferior bloodline in Lu Weiyang's words. Lu Ming thought a lot, but his expression didn't change. He followed Han Yu and the others and flew toward the crowd. Chapter 4992. Han Yu, I'm glad you're all right. It was a tall and burly young man with a square face and sharp eyes, but he smiled when he saw Han Yu. Brother Wuji. Brother Wuji. Han Yu and Lu Weiyang greeted the burly young man. It was obvious that the burly young man was very prestigious. Lu Ming knew that Zhao Wuji was one of the leaders of the human race. Many people stood behind him and looked at Zhao Wuji with reverence. Moreover, Lu Ming could sense a terrifying aura from this person. Although it was hidden, Lu Ming could still feel it. He was definitely a terrifying expert. He should be an invincible divine master. Brother Wuji, we were surrounded by the 9 demonic spiders this time. Fortunately, we met Lu Ming. Otherwise, I'm afraid that Han Yu wouldn't be able to see you again. Han Yu said. Lu Ming? Zhao Wuji was slightly stunned. He glanced at Han Yu and the others and finally fixed his eyes on Lu Ming. This was because among the 8 of them, Han Yu, Lu Weiyang, and Lu Ming was the only unfamiliar face. This bloodline. Once Zhao Wuji looked at Lu Ming, he could tell that something was amiss. He discovered that Lu Ming's bloodline level was very low. The bloodline of the human race was mixed and impure. His bloodline is an inferior bloodline. That's right. It is definitely an inferior bloodline. To think that there are still inferior bloodlines. Even in the previous epoch, there were not many inferior bloodlines. The other humans also looked at Lu Ming and spoke in surprise, discussing fervently. I'm Lu Ming from the east of the universe. Nice to meet you all. Lu Ming cupped his fists without changing his expression. Brother Wuji, although Lu Ming's bloodline isn't pure, he's very powerful. He can kill an overlord who has broken through the first level in a few moves. Don't underestimate him. Han Yu hurriedly explained. After all, Lu Ming was her savior and she was grateful. She didn't want the others to be like Lu Weiyang and look down on Lu Ming because of his low bloodline. He can kill an overlord who has broken through the first level in a few moves? Zhao Wuji and the others were even more surprised. It's no longer the era of the Eldritch continent. There aren't many surviving humans and we're surrounded by strong enemies. We should be united regardless of our bloodline level. Why would I look down on him? Han Yu, you think too much. Zhao Wuji laughed and said, to be able to injure a first-stage breaking extreme expert in just a few moves, he was definitely a top first-stage breaking extreme expert, or even a second-stage breaking extreme expert. How could he underestimate him? That's right. The others also nodded. Of course, there were also a few people like Lu Weiyang who looked at Lu Ming with disdain. Brother Lu Ming, thank you. Then, Zhao Wuji cupped his fists to Lu Ming. As a fellow human, I should help you. You don't have to thank me. Lu Ming cupped his fists in return. Brother Wuji, let me tell you, Lu Ming is Sister Mulan's junior brother. He came here to find Sister Mulan's. Han Yu continued. This time, Zhao Wuji and the others were even more surprised. Lu Ming was Mulan's junior brother, which was really beyond their expectations. There is a long void zone near the eastern area of the Eldritch universe, which divides the universe into two and is extremely difficult to cross. Mulan's came here by an ancient teleportation array, but I heard from Mulan's that the ancient teleportation array seemed to be damaged and couldn't be connected. Brother Lu Ming, did you cross that void zone? Zhao Wuji asked curiously. Lu Ming knew about the void zone that Zhao Wuji was talking about. There was a void zone between 1/3 of the universe ruins where Lu Ming and the others were and 2/3 of the deep universe ruins. It was very large and extremely difficult to cross. Why did the three tribes of the Forbidden Grounds, the Heavenly Human Tribe, and the Heaven Exterminating Troop, stop exploring after exploring 1/3 of the area? Why did they stop expanding the area? It was because of this void zone. It wasn't that it was impossible to cross, but it was too difficult to do so. Moreover, this void zone was filled with some unknown dangers. Therefore, this void zone not only isolated the Primordial Light Tribe but also the major forces in the Deep Universe ruins. No one could say for sure how this zone of nothingness was formed. Some people guessed that it might have been formed by the Great Battle of the Last Era. No wonder Zhao Wuji was curious. I also came here through that ancient teleportation array. Sister Mulan's is right. That ancient teleportation array was destroyed in the past, but it was repaired later. Lu Ming explained. I see. Zhao Wuji nodded. While they were chatting, many human experts gathered here. The number of human experts gathered here was increasing. Lu Ming observed secretly and found that there were really many experts here. Many of them had strong and unfathomable auras and contained terrifying power in their bodies. Once they unleashed it, it would be absolutely shocking. Although it was hard to judge their real combat power without really fighting, Lu Ming felt that there was definitely no lack of people who had broken through the first or second level. Then, Zhao Wuji introduced another young man to Lu Ming. This young man was called Yen Wudao. Lu Ming could see that this person was also extremely terrifying. He was probably not weaker than Zhao Wuji. Zhao Wuji and Yen Wudao were the leaders of this group of humans. Almost everyone is here. The divine medicine in the divine range has been plundered by the various forces. Let's return to the Azure Divine Realm. Zhao Wuji's voice spread throughout the area. Naturally, no one had any objections. The divine range had been plundered clean. There was no point in continuing to stay. Just as they were about to leave, they suddenly saw a large number of figures rushing toward them from the void in the distance. There were at least a few thousand of them. The Extreme Evil Tribe. It's the Extreme Evil Tribe. What is the Extreme Evil Tribe doing here? They are coming aggressively. It seems like they have bad intentions. Be careful. The crowd started to discuss. However, the humans were not afraid. Instead, they looked alert and prepared for a big battle. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The figures stopped not far away. They were all experts of the Extreme Evil Tribe. Their auras were evil as they stared at the humans. Mo Sha, what are you doing here? Zhao Wuji shouted as he stared at a young man from the extreme evil tribe. This young man was called Emosha. His eyes were extremely evil. "What am I doing here? Did you guys kill the demonic kraken?" Emosha shouted coldly. His eyes were filled with killing intent. "Moken?" Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, but his expression did not change. "Moken was killed?" Han Yu, Lu Weiyang, and the others' expressions changed. Before they came, they had passed by a continent fragment. They had seen Moken and the others on that continent fragment. How long had it been? How could Moken be killed? "Moken is dead?" Zhao Wuji's eyes flickered. Then he sneered and said, "Moken's death has nothing to do with us." Chapter 4993. The evil aura in Emosha's eyes grew thicker. Not only her, but the other elites of the extreme evil tribe also looked cold and evil. They glanced at Zhao Wuji, Yan Wudao, and the others. "You are the only ones in this area. Who else could it be?" Emosha continued, "Also, Moken has 2 top-level source-level elixirs. Did you kill Moken and take his 2 top-level source-level elixirs?" "I'll say it again. We didn't do anything," Zhao Wuji said resolutely. "Hehe, it's not up to you to decide whether or not you've made a move. Hand over your storage pouches. I want to check them one by one to see if the 2 top-grade source-level divine herbs of the demonic kraken are on you," Emosha said coldly. Hearing this, Lu Ming's expression didn't change. He knew that Zhao Wuji and the others wouldn't agree to such an unreasonable request. "You want to check our storage bags? Ha, what a joke. Do you think you're qualified?" Zhao Wuji laughed. His body was even more muscular. His aura was like a mountain. His long hair fluttered in the wind, making him look like a god of war. The blood in his body seemed to be burning. Waves of heavy aura made Lu Ming feel pressured. This pressure didn't come from his combat power. It came from his bloodline. The bloodline of a superior being. Luckily it was Lu Ming. If it were an ordinary human, they would be terrified by Zhao Wuji's aura. They would kneel down involuntarily. It was like an ordinary divine dragon facing a 9-clawed dragon or an ordinary angel facing a 12-winged angel. Zhao Wuji's human bloodline was extremely powerful. It was stronger and purer than Han Yu and Lu Weiyang's. Not only Zhao Wuji, but Yan Wudao was also covered in a layer of dazzling light. His aura wasn't any weaker than Zhao Wuji's. The other human elites also released their powerful auras. They faced the extreme evil tribe from afar. Their auras collided in the void, creating a series of explosions. The human race had a lot of experts. Unlike the Eastern universe, 1/3 of the area that Lu Ming and the others had explored in the future was called the Eastern universe, and 2/3 of the area in the depths of the universe was called the Western universe, which was completely suppressed by the creatures of the Forbidden Lands. The human tribe cultivators here were no weaker than the extreme evil tribe cultivators. Hence, even though the two sides were facing each other, they did not start a war. Who killed Moken? Could it be? In the crowd, Han Yu, Lu Weiyang, and the others thought for a while and then looked at Lu Ming. They all suspected that it was Lu Ming. Previously, Lu Ming had found an excuse to leave for a period of time, saying that he had something to do. Could it be that he had returned to kill Moken and snatched the 2 stalks of top-grade origin-grade divine herbs from Moken? However, Moken was an elite who had broken through twice. He also had the help of other elites. Could Lu Ming have done it with his cultivation? Lu Weiyang even wanted to tell the extreme evil tribe that it was Lu Ming who had done it. He wanted to blame Lu Ming. However, he did not do so in the end. It was not the Eldritch Continent era anymore. The strength of the human tribe was far from what it had been in the previous era. They were too weak. Hence, the human tribe had to be very united. If he betrayed Lu Ming in public, it would be the same as betraying his own race. He would be hated by all his people. In the future, he would not be able to move an inch in the Azure Divine Realm. At that moment, a large number of figures came from another direction. The extreme evil tribe and the human tribe cultivators were shocked. They restrained their auras and became alert. Soon, a large number of figures came to a stop on the other side of the rift. 9 demonic spiders. The figures that appeared later were all 9 demonic spiders. There were many of them, at least a few thousand. These 9 demonic spiders stopped in another direction, facing off against the human tribe and the extreme evil tribe. Haha, it seems that we are not the only ones in this area. There are also 9 demonic spiders. Are you also going to search the 9 demonic spiders' storage bags? Zhao Wuji laughed. The extreme evil tribe cultivators' faces darkened. Emo Sha's evil eyes scanned the 9 demonic spiders. She was up to no good. Zhu Xiang, tell me, did you kill the demon kraken and take away their 2 top-grade origin grade divine herbs? Emo Sha stared coldly at a youth from the 9 demonic spiders. Bullshit. Zhu Xiang, a youth from the 9 demonic spiders, replied coldly. Zhu Xiang, you're courting death. Emo Sha shouted. You want to kill me? You're not strong enough. Zhu Xiang sneered. He did not seem to be afraid of Emo Sha. This time, it was the 9 demonic spiders and the extreme evil tribe's turn to face off. The 9 demonic spiders were also in this area. Moken might have been killed by the 9 demonic spiders. Lu Ming watched coldly from the side, but she kept analyzing what she saw and heard. From the current situation, she could infer that the situation of the forces in the Western universe was completely different from that in the Eastern universe. In the Eastern universe, the 3 races of the Forbidden Lands and the Heavenly Human Tribe worked together to suppress the Heaven Destroyer. The Heaven Destroyer was in danger. However, the Western universe seemed to be different. The creatures of the Forbidden Lands didn't seem to have any intention of working together against the human tribe. This could be seen from the confrontation between the extreme evil tribe and the 9 demonic spiders. For example, the extreme evil tribe didn't have a good relationship with the 9 demonic spiders. This was similar to the relationship between the extreme evil tribe and the human tribe. They were both ready to fight at any time. They were both enemies and competitors. If the creatures of the other Forbidden Lands were like this, then the situation of the human tribe in the Western universe would be countless times better than the situation of the Heaven Destroyer in the Eastern universe. Actually, on second thought, this was actually normal. In the Eastern universe, the reason why the 3 races of the Forbidden Lands worked together against the Heaven Destroyer was actually because of the Forbidden Body. Whether it was Tang Feng, Fei Huang, Lu Ming, or Gu Changfeng, they all had the Forbidden Body and controlled the power of the universe. The stronger they were, the greater the suppression on the 3 races of the Forbidden Lands. It could be said that the Forbidden Body was the common enemy of the 3 races of the Forbidden Lands. In particular, the Yi Immortal was the one who persuaded the various forces to work together against the Heaven Destroyer. In fact, when the 3 races of the Forbidden Lands first appeared, they were all fighting on their own. They didn't have the slightest intention of working together against the Heaven Destroyer. In the Western universe, if there weren't any forbidden bodies, then the creatures of the Forbidden Lands wouldn't need to work together against the human tribe. The current human tribe wasn't as powerful as it was in the previous era. They didn't need to work together. With Lu Ming's intelligence, he quickly figured this out. Although the extreme evil tribe and the 9 demonic spiders were in a confrontation, they didn't really attack. There were 3 major forces here, so no one dared to make the first move. For example, if the extreme evil tribe attacked the 9 demonic spiders and the human tribe attacked them, then they would be in danger. The reverse was also true. Although the extreme evil tribe suspected that Moken had been killed by the 9 demonic spiders or the human tribe, they didn't have any evidence. They couldn't be completely sure either. No matter how angry they were, there was nothing they could do. Chapter 4994. I'll find out who killed Moken sooner or later. I, Emo Sha, swear that I won't let go of the person who killed Moken. I'll destroy his cultivation, skin him alive, and pull out his tendons. Emo Sha said evilly. Emo Sha's words meant that she was planning to retreat. He knew that they couldn't continue like this. It was impossible to find Moken's murderer. The 9 demonic spiders and the humans couldn't really let them check his storage bag. He only said that to put pressure on them. Take care. I won't see you off. Zhu Xiang said coldly. Zhao Wuji and Yen Wudao also sneered at Emo Sha. Emo Sha snorted coldly. She led the extreme evil tribe away. In the blink of an eye, the extreme evil tribe had all left. Zhao Wuji, Yan Wudao, you killed Moken, didn't you? After the extreme evil tribe left, Zhu Xiang looked at Zhao Wuji and Yan Wudao playfully. Zhu Xiang knew that the 9 demonic spiders didn't kill Moken. If they didn't kill him, then it must be the humans. Coincidentally, Zhao Wuji and Yan Wudao were thinking the same thing. Zhu Xiang, you're a thief pretending to be a thief. Zhao Wuji sneered. Hee hee. Zhu Xiang sneered and didn't say anything else. He led the 9 demonic spiders and continued forward. Soon they disappeared. I'm not leaving. After the 9 demonic spiders left, Zhao Wuji yelled and led the humans toward the Congqing godly realm. Senior Sister Mulins, I'm coming. Lu Ming was a little agitated. They hadn't seen each other for more than 10,000 years. He wondered how Mulins would react when she saw him. Lu Ming was looking forward to it. Just as Lu Ming followed Zhao Wuji and the others to the Congqing godly realm, there was a major change in the Eastern universe. The Yi Immortal brought the 3 forbidden tribes together again. They planned to go to the depths of the universe ruins, which was the Western universe. Their goal was the human king's heart. The Yi Immortal had made it clear that the human monarch's body had fallen into the hands of the Heaven Destroyer. Once the Heaven Destroyer obtained the human monarch's heart and perfected the human monarch's body, he would be invincible. Activating the human monarch physique was truly invincible. Even if the 3 clans of the Forbidden Grounds had ancestor-level existences hiding, they might not be a match for the human monarch physique. Therefore, the human king's heart must not fall into the hands of the Heaven Destroyer. Without the human monarch's heart, the human monarch's physical body would not be able to be activated. Once the origin calamity was over, the Heaven Destroyer would no longer be a threat. The 3 clans of the Forbidden Lands did not dare to be careless when it came to the matter of the human king. They sent out most of their top experts and headed to the Western universe with the Yi Immortal. They naturally didn't know about the ancient teleportation array. They were going to cross the void zone and head to the Western universe. The reason why they wanted to head to the Western universe was because they had already scouted the Eastern universe, but they did not find any clues about the human monarch's heart. Then, there was only one explanation. The human monarch's heart was not in the Eastern universe, but in the Western universe. Although crossing the void zone was difficult and very dangerous, it shouldn't be a big problem as long as there were fewer people and they were more careful. It was just that it would take a longer time. After a few days of hurrying, Lu Ming and the others finally returned to the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. Is this the Ashen Azure Divine Realm? It's very different from the other continent fragments. Why does it feel similar to the world in my Chaos Ring? After arriving at the Ashen Azure Divine Realm, Lu Ming sized it up carefully and was very surprised. The Ashen Azure Divine Realm was actually a continent. However, most of it was hidden in the void. Only a small part was exposed outside the void. However, it was also covered by powerful restrictions. It seemed like the Ashen Azure Divine Realm should be a part of the Chaos Continent. Ordinary people would not be able to tell the difference. However, Lu Ming could tell the difference. The main reason was that the Ashen Azure Divine Realm was somewhat similar to the one in the Chaos Ring. The aura was heavy and ancient, as if it carried an entire universe. This was fundamentally different from ordinary continent fragments. Lu Ming had once felt this feeling in the World of Rings. In the World of Rings, the human king's body had been sealed. The Chaos Ring, the World of Rings, and the Firmament Divine Realm had similarities. Was there any connection? Unfortunately, Lu Ming had too little information. He could not figure it out even if he racked his brains. Lu Ming, Sister Mulins lives in the Sky Orchid Garden. Shall I take you there now? Han Yu said to Lu Ming. This was exactly what Lu Ming wanted. Lu Ming quickly nodded. Immediately, Han Yu led Lu Ming to the Sky Orchid Garden. As they flew, he introduced some important places in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm to Lu Ming. Humph! Lu Weiyang looked at Lu Ming's back and snorted. Then, he left with a few other young men who were on good terms with him. Soon, Lu Ming and the others arrived at a lakeside. There was a courtyard by the lakeside. This was the Sky Orchid Garden where Mullins lived. Miss Hanyu, are you here to see Miss Mullins? Unfortunately, Miss Mullins has been in seclusion. I'm afraid she won't be able to see you for the time being. At the door, a girl dressed as a maid smiled. Seclusion? Is it a very important seclusion? Lu Ming asked quickly. Was he going to make a wasted trip? Yes, Miss Mullins has had a major breakthrough. I'm afraid she will be able to break through twice. The maid said. Break through twice. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. This meant that Mullins's cultivation had also reached the peak of the Almighty Realm. Only at the peak of the Almighty Realm could one break through to the next level. There was no such thing as breaking through to the peak of the Almighty Realm. Lu Ming really didn't expect Mullins to have such achievements after not seeing her for more than 10,000 years. Break through twice. Even among the creatures of the Forbidden Lands, she would be considered a peerless genius. Among the thousands of races in the universe, she would be an invincible existence. With Mullins's talent in the past, it was impossible for her to do so. In fact, with Lu Ming's rise, the gap between Mullins and Lu Ming grew bigger and bigger. Not to mention the creatures of the Forbidden Lands, even among the thousands of races in the universe, Mullins's talent was actually very average. It could even be said to be poor. But now, Mullins was about to break through twice. This talent was not inferior to Xian Yanqing's at all. One had to know that Xian Yanqing's current battle prowess was only at the second break. Xian Yanqing was a reincarnated person. In his previous life, he was at the Origin Realm and had obtained a series of opportunities to achieve such achievements. To be honest, Lu Ming was really surprised that Mullins was about to arrive. There was only one explanation, and that was that Mullins had obtained a heaven-defying opportunity in the past few years. Lu Ming thought of the stone house on the ancient teleportation path. The opportunity left behind by the mysterious existence who had built the ancient teleportation path and the creation jade pool, Lu Ming still remembered that it was Mullins who had made the Tsongqing Divine Realm come out in advance. Originally, the Tsongqing Divine Realm was sealed in the depths of the universe and couldn't be broken from inside or outside. However, Mullins had used a gem to open the seal of the Tsongqing Divine Realm. That gem was definitely a peerless treasure. Chapter 4995. Then we'll come again in the future. Don't disturb Senior Sister Mullins's seclusion. Lu Ming said. Seclusion to break through the second level was definitely a very important seclusion. If it was disturbed and affected the breakthrough, the loss would be great. Anyway, more than 10,000 years had passed, so waiting a little longer didn't matter. Once Miss Mullins comes out of seclusion, I'll report it immediately. The maid said. Thank you very much. Lu Ming cupped his fists and then left with Hanyu. Then, Hanyu arranged a place for Lu Ming to live. This place was not too far from where Hanyu lived. Then, Hanyu gave Lu Ming a map of the Tsongqing Divine Realm and left. A few days passed in the blink of an eye. When Lu Ming was free, he would wander around the Tsongqing Divine Realm. The Tsongqing Divine Realm was very large, and there were at least 10 billion humans living here. 10 billion people seemed to be a lot, but in fact, when scattered in the vast Tsongqing Divine Realm, it was actually very small. It was said that in the last era, when the Tsongqing Divine Realm was just sealed, the population was only 100,000. However, after a long time of reproduction, the population reached 10 billion. This was because the higher the cultivation, the harder it was to reproduce. Otherwise, the population would be much larger. However, there were many experts in the Tsongqing Divine Realm. After a few days of observation, Lu Ming found that the ratio of experts far exceeded that of the heavenly human race. In other words, the talent of the human race far exceeded that of the heavenly human race. In the past, Lu Ming thought that the human race's talent was very ordinary. Compared to the other races in the universe, especially the top 10 races, there was a huge gap. Now it seemed that he was wrong. Because the human race in the universe had impure bloodlines. The pure-blooded humans in the Eldritch continent were very talented. Not to mention the heavenly human race, they were even stronger than the creatures in the Forbidden Lands. No wonder the human race could become the strongest race in the Eldritch continent in the last era. And in the past few days, Lu Ming didn't find anyone with the same bloodline as him, which was the inferior bloodline that Lu Weiyang said. The human race here had a very high bloodline level. It could be said that they were all above others. Many people saw Lu Ming's bloodline and were very surprised. They looked at Lu Ming as if he was a rare animal. Some of them were still all right. They were calm and would greet Lu Ming with a smile when they saw him. However, some of them, like Lu Weiyang, showed a look of disdain. When they faced Lu Ming, they showed a look of superiority. This made Lu Ming very unhappy. He had never felt that his bloodline was inferior to others, but here, he had become an inferior bloodline. Anyone would feel uncomfortable. Of course, the proportion of such people was not high, and the number of people was relatively small. Hence, he decided not to go out, and instead stayed in his residence in seclusion, comprehending Genesis techniques while waiting for Mulins to emerge. 2 days later, Han Yu came. "Brother Lu, are you all right?" Han Yu said awkwardly when he saw Lu Ming. Upon hearing this, Lu Ming knew that Han Yu was here because he had been despised. "It's just a small matter. I didn't take it to heart," Lu Ming said with a smile. Indeed, Lu Ming was a little unhappy at first, but with his temperament, he quickly adjusted. What did the difference in bloodline represent? His bloodline level was inferior to others in the Tsangqing divine domain, but how many people in the Tsangqing divine domain could compare with him? How many people of the same level could have his battle strength? Let alone a few people, could one person have it? Why should he care about bloodline level? Han Yu breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that Lu Ming didn't seem to mind. She had come to see Lu Ming because she had heard the gossip outside. She was afraid that Lu Ming would be unhappy because of the shock. Lu Ming was her savior after all. Some people are really too much. What era is it now? It's no longer the era of the primitive continent. The human race is no longer the strong race that dominated the world. Some people still hold on to the concept of bloodline level. It's really abominable, Han Yu said resentfully. Miss Han Yu, in the last era, did the human race really have a division of bloodline level? Lu Ming asked. He was also quite curious about this. In the last era, there was indeed such a division. Those with low bloodline level, which is what Lu Weiyang said, had a very low status. Han Yu said, "How did the human race's bloodline level come about?" Lu Ming asked again. "It should be survival of the fittest. Speaking of which, it has something to do with the history of the human race's development." Han Yu said, "The history of the human race's development? Please enlighten me, Miss Han Yu." Lu Ming's eyes lit up slightly. Lu Ming was very interested in the history of the human race's development. If he knew the history of the human race's development, he would definitely know more about the primitive continent. Before he came to the Western universe, he had asked Firmament for advice, but Firmament only had a rough understanding of the primitive continent. As for the Azure Divine Realm, it was passed down by the human race in the last era, so it would most likely know more about the primitive continent, especially about the human race. I also read about it in ancient books. According to the legends, in the early days of the primitive continent, the human race was actually very weak. They were not even ranked among the thousands of races. Compared to the thousands of races, they could only live a humble life and even become slaves. Later, a terrible war broke out in the primitive continent. Thousands of races killed each other and swept across the entire primitive continent. Countless races were annihilated in that war. The weak human race took the opportunity to develop and finally had a little strength to protect themselves. After the War of the 10,000 Tribes, the Demon Tribe and the Sorcerer Tribe became the biggest winners. They dominated the untainted land and no other tribe could compete with them. The other surviving tribes all attached themselves to them, including the human tribe. At that time, although the human race was much stronger, it was also very difficult for them to survive. Many of their clansmen were also enslaved by the demon race and the Wu people. As the saying goes, a mountain cannot accommodate two tigers. The demon tribe and the sorcerer tribe dominated the untainted land. Both of them wanted to be the real dominator, so the two tribes naturally competed with each other. Later, the Great War of the Sorcerer and the Demon Tribe broke out, which was no less than the Great War of the Tribes. Both the sorcerer and the demon tribe suffered heavy losses in this war, while the human tribe took the opportunity to develop. Later on, the human tribe rose to prominence and even suppressed the sorcerer and the demon tribe to become the strongest tribe. Han Yu introduced. Lu Ming was fascinated as he listened. Although Han Yu had only said a few words, Lu Ming could imagine that it would be a magnificent epic, a period of the human race's difficult development history. In that period of history, the human race was very weak at the beginning. If they wanted to survive, they had to constantly become stronger. Therefore, in the process of development, those with better talent and stronger physiques had higher potential and improved faster. Those with weaker physiques and less talent were often eliminated. After a long period of development, those with strong constitutions would be able to give birth to people with stronger constitutions and bloodlines through marriage. Over time, the strong would become stronger and stronger. Gradually, the difference in bloodlines would appear. Han Yu continued to explain. Chapter 4996. Through Han Yu's explanation, Lu Ming understood that the bloodline grades of the human clan had evolved over a long period of time. The weak were prey to the strong and the weak were eliminated. Powerful bloodlines would continue to develop, and in the end, one would naturally become a superior bloodline. On the other hand, those with inferior bloodlines would become inferior bloodlines, and could only become inferior. Even those with inferior bloodlines would find it difficult to survive. During the era of the primitive continent, although most of the human clan's bloodline grades were very high, there were still many with inferior bloodlines. At that time, they were called inferior bloodlines and had a very low status. That's why Lu Weiyang and the others were like this, Han Yu said. She explained in detail mainly because she wanted to say that it was only the last era and that things were different now. Then, Han Yu explained that when the Ashen Azure Divine Realm was sealed, the human clan that remained in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm were all people with superior bloodlines. Therefore, even if they continued to reproduce, their descendants would also have superior bloodlines. There was no one with a bloodline like Lu Ming's in the Firmament Divine Realm today. Through the conversation with Han Yu, Lu Ming learned more about the last era. By the way, Miss Han Yu, do you know the Heavenly Human Clan? Lu Ming suddenly changed the topic and asked. He heard from the demons that the Heavenly Human Clan and the demons were slaves of the human clan in the last era. He wanted to know more. Heavenly Human Clan? I've never heard of it. What kind of clan is it? How dare they use "Hun" as their name? How dare they? Han Yu said. How dare they? What do you mean? Lu Ming asked curiously. I don't know the details. I only know that Tian was a taboo in the last era and no clan dared to use it. Otherwise, it would bring disaster. Han Yu said. Tian is a taboo? Lu Ming was even more curious and confused. The original name of the Heavenly Human Clan seems to be the Demi-Human Clan. Have you heard of it? Have you heard of the Demon Clan? They were all slaves of the human clan in the last era. Lu Ming said. He had heard the name of the Demi-Human Clan from Zixin. Demi-Human Clan? Devil? I've never heard of it. As far as I know, the human clan enslaved countless races, including many races outside the Void Universe. I guess these two are just one of them. Han Yu said. But it seemed like the human race of the last great era was truly incomparably powerful. Even races like the Celestial race and Fiend race were enslaved by them. However, even though they were so strong, they still ended up falling apart. What happened at the end of the previous epic? Was it related to the creatures in the Forbidden Grounds? The destruction of the Purple Heaven Cave must have had something to do with the living beings in the Forbidden Land. It was the Ju-In tribe that had destroyed the Purple Heaven Cave. In the previous era, the extreme In tribe was a terrifying forbidden land. However, did the creatures of the Forbidden Lands really have the strength to destroy the primitive universe? Lu Ming expressed his doubts. Is it a powerful force outside the primitive universe? Since they already knew that there were other races outside the universe, it was completely normal for there to be other powerful and terrifying forces. I can't figure it out. Lu Ming shook his head slightly to get rid of his messy thoughts. Seeing Lu Ming's expression, Han Yu thought that Lu Ming was troubled by the level of his bloodline. He said, "Actually, if Brother Lu wants to change his bloodline level, it's not impossible." "Can I change my bloodline level? What is it?" Lu Ming asked curiously. He didn't really want to change his bloodline level. He felt that there was nothing wrong with his current bloodline. It still had endless potential. This was because he no longer had a pure human bloodline. He had a forbidden body. How powerful was the potential of a forbidden body? He didn't know. However, the forbidden sword ancestor, Tang Feng, was also a human. He also came from a small world. His bloodline level must be the same as his. However, how powerful was the sword ancestor now? Therefore, the potential of a forbidden body should not be inferior to a high-level human bloodline. However, Lu Ming was still very curious. That was why he asked. "The Sacred Luminance Holy Scroll," Han Yu said with a look of reverence. "The Ashen Azure Divine Realm has a scroll of the Sacred Luminance Holy Scroll. As long as one is under the Sacred Luminance Holy Scroll, one's bloodline can be purified, increase one's potential, and enhance one's talent. Even an inferior bloodline may be able to transform." The Sacred Luminance Holy Scroll? Lu Ming was curious and puzzled. It was another word that he had never heard of. The scroll left behind by the human monarch, the Sacred Luminance. Han Yu added. What? Lu Ming's heart was beating wildly. The scroll left behind by the human monarch? The human monarch's name was Sacred Luminance? He had obtained the body of the human monarch before. "Let's go and take a look," Lu Ming said impatiently. "Brother Lu, please follow me." Han Yu led the way to the central area of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. The Sacred Luminance Holy Scroll was placed in an important position in the center of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. It was protected by layers of formations. These formations were mainly used to guard against outsiders. They were unguarded against humans in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. Any human could come out at will and use the Sacred Luminance Holy Scroll to cultivate. The Sacred Luminance Holy Scroll was suspended in a huge lake. It was extremely huge, 10,000 meters long and 1,000 meters wide. It was a scroll painting. The painting was of a middle-aged human man. He seemed to be standing there quietly with his hands behind his back. He looked elegant and there was a trace of compassion on his face. He did not have an aura that could dominate the world, nor did he have a soul-stirring aura. Instead, he exuded an aura that could enlighten all living beings. That's right. It was an aura that could enlighten all living beings. Lu Ming and Han Yu stood by the lake. Just by looking at it from afar, they felt a sense of admiration. The painting on the scroll is the human monarch Sacred Luminance himself. Han Yu explained. However, she did not notice that Lu Ming was stunned at this moment. He stared at the Sacred Luminance Holy Scroll in disbelief. This is the human monarch himself. What's going on? I saw the human monarch's appearance through the human monarch's body. It doesn't look like this. Lu Ming kept shouting in his heart. When he obtained the human monarch's arm in the stellar sky continent, the arm had once manifested the figure of the human monarch. It was completely different from the one in this painting, whether it was the appearance or the temperament. The figure manifested from the human monarch's body had an aura that could swallow the universe. It was completely different from the temperament of the human monarch that could enlighten all living beings in this painting. What was going on? Was there more than one human monarch? If he did not understand, he should ask. Lu Ming asked calmly, "Miss Han Yu, is there more than one human monarch?" "Of course." Han Yu said, "In the last era, there were a total of 3 human monarchs. Otherwise, the human race would not have been so powerful and suppressed the shaman and demon races." "There were 3? Which 3? Lu Ming asked. "They were the human monarch Sacred Luminance, the human monarch Shen Yuan, and the third was a woman known as the Queen of Eternity." Han Yu said, "Human monarch Sacred Luminance, human monarch Shen Yuan, and the Queen of Eternity." Lu Ming muttered in his heart. His heart was in turmoil. Chapter 4997. There were 3 human kings in total, and one of them was a woman, the ancient queen. The identity of the sovereign personage's corporeal body was obvious. Human King Shen Yuan. Obviously, The body was left behind by human king Xianyuan. Human King Xing was the first human king of the human race. He was born in the era of the Great War between the shamans and the demons. Human King Xing rose against the heavens, and took advantage of the fact that the shamans and demons were greatly weakened to lead the human race to rise again, and became the third strongest race after the shamans and demons. It was under the protection of Human King Xing that the human clan could develop peacefully. Their overall strength continued to grow, and they laid a solid foundation for dominating the world. When the Great War of the Witch and Demon clan ended, the human clan had become a powerful force that was not weaker than the Witch and Demon clan. Later, Human King Xing used his own essence and blood as the foundation to draw 9 sacred luminance scrolls. The sacred luminance scrolls contain the essence and will of Human King Xing, which is very useful for the human clan. As long as the human clan is close to the sacred luminance scrolls, they can use the essence and will of Human King Xing to train their spirit and will. They can also refine their bloodline and improve their talent and potential. Legend has it that Human King Xianyuan and the ancient queen both cultivated under the sacred luminance scrolls and obtained great benefits. They laid a solid foundation for their future path of invincibility. It can be said that the human clan was able to dominate the untainted land because of the sacred luminance scrolls. Han Yu explained in detail. They are really enlightening. They are the kings of the human clan. Lu Ming sighed. He was full of admiration. You're right. The 3 human kings have made unparalleled contributions to the human race. Without the 3 human kings, the human race wouldn't be prosperous. Unfortunately, after the war, the other sacred luminance scrolls disappeared. Fortunately, the Azure Divine Realm kept one. It is really a blessing in disguise. Han Yu said. Lu Ming did not ask any more questions. He just observed. The sacred luminance scroll floated above the center of the lake, scattering faint light. On the lake, there were many figures sitting cross-legged on the surface of the lake. At a glance, there were no less than 10,000 people. The distance between these people and the sacred luminance holy scroll varied from one to the other. Some people were closer to the sacred luminance, while some were further away from it. The closer one is to the sacred luminance saint scroll, the greater the effect will be. However, the sacred luminance saint scroll is drawn with the blood essence of a human king. Not only does it contain the heavenly might of a human king, it also contains the spiritual suppression of a human king. Therefore, it's extremely difficult to get close to the sacred luminance saint scroll. Only those with a strong will and powerful bloodline can get close to the sacred luminance saint scroll. Fearing that Lu Ming might not understand, Han Yu explained. Lu Ming understood that the higher one's bloodline was, the more talented they were, the closer they would be to the sacred luminance holy scroll. Lu Ming found that there were only a few people who were closest to the sacred luminance. These people were all about 100 miles away from the sacred luminance. The others were even further away. However, these people were all covered in a layer of blood-red light. The blood-red light fluctuated and emitted a powerful aura. Every one of them had a very powerful human bloodline, which was far above Lu Ming's. Lu Ming, you also came to the sacred luminance saint scroll. But do you want to use the sacred luminance saint scroll to improve your bloodline? At this moment, an unpleasant voice sounded. Lu Ming immediately knew that it was Lu Weiyang. Lu Weiyang came with a few other young people and stood not far away from Lu Ming. Everyone, this is Lu Ming. He's the one with the inferior bloodline that I mentioned. You haven't seen him before, right? It's a good opportunity for you to broaden your horizons. Lu Weiyang said to the other young people with a mocking look. Lu Ming frowned slightly. If he hadn't just arrived and if this wasn't the Azure Divine Realm, he would have suppressed Lu Weiyang with a slap. Lu Weiyang saw that Lu Ming didn't say anything and thought that Lu Ming was afraid. After all, this was the Firmament Divine Realm. Even a powerful dragon couldn't defeat a snake in its own territory. Thinking of this, Lu Weiyang became even more proud. Inferior bloodline should accept your fate. It's ridiculous that you want to improve your bloodline and change your fate with the sacred luminance saint scroll. Who do you think you are? Human King Xianyuan? Lu Weiyang mocked even more unscrupulously. Legend had it that human King Shenyuan originally had an inferior bloodline. Finally, under the sacred luminance Saint Scroll, he changed his fate and became invincible. However, over the years, how many people with inferior bloodline could achieve this? There were only a few people, and only one of them could achieve what human King Shenyuan did. Lu Weiyang, can you stop talking? Han Yu couldn't stand it anymore. She shouted and continued, even if you can't achieve what human King Shenyuan did, you can still purify your bloodline and improve your talent. It's also very helpful for your future cultivation. Oh, then I'd like to see how far he can go. If he can walk 1,000 meters, Lu Weiyang sneered. You'll what? Lu Ming looked at Lu Weiyang with a faint smile. 10,000 meters. If you can walk 10,000 meters, I'll admit your identity as a human. Lu Weiyang said. Why do I need you to admit my identity? That's ridiculous. How about this? If I can walk 10,000 meters, you can swallow that pile of mud. Lu Ming pointed to a pile of mud by the lake. That pile of mud was the size of a water tank. Lu Weiyang's eyelids twitched. Thinking of Lu Ming's strength, he couldn't help but feel a little guilty. But when he thought of Lu Ming's inferior bloodline, his courage was boosted. It was extremely difficult for an inferior bloodline to walk 1,000 meters, let alone 10,000 meters. Since the birth of the sacred luminance Saint Scroll, countless inferior bloodline people had tried to change their fate through the sacred luminance Saint Scroll. But there were very few who could walk 100 meters on their first try, let alone 10,000 meters. The number of inferior bloodline people who could walk 10,000 meters on their first try could be counted on one hand. Each of these people later became a top expert of the human race, and the strongest among them was human King Shenyuan. He didn't believe that Lu Ming could compare with these people. What? You don't have the guts to bet? Then shut up when you see me in the future. Lu Ming snorted coldly. A murderous aura emanated from him. Lu Weiyang shuddered and shivered in fear. Lu Ming had experienced many storms and killed many strong enemies along the way. His murderous aura was astonishingly strong. How could Lu Weiyang compare to him? When Lu Weiyang came to his senses, he felt humiliated and immediately became furious. Okay, let's bet. If you lose, you have to kneel in front of me and become my slave from then on. It's a deal, Lu Ming said. Lu Ming, don't be impulsive. On the side, Han Yu hurriedly persuaded Lu Ming. Her big eyes were full of worry. She also didn't think that Lu Ming could walk 10,000 meters on his first try. That was too difficult. Chapter 4998. After all, Lu Ming was Han Yu's savior. Han Yu was really worried about him. Once Lu Ming lost and became Lu Weiyang's servant, he would really be finished. He would be doomed eternally. Lu Weiyang, I want you to cancel this bet. Han Yu said to Lu Weiyang after speaking to Lu Ming. The bet has already been set. How can I cancel it so easily? Lu Weiyang refused directly. At this moment he was ecstatic. How could he cancel it? Once Lu Ming lost, he would become his servant. Not only would he be able to vent his anger, but he would also be able to take the top-grade source-level divine medicine that Lu Ming obtained from Zhu Shi. Moreover, Lu Ming's combat strength was very strong. If he could become his servant, he would be able to let Lu Ming take the lead when he went out for adventures in the future. How cool would that be? In short, there were many benefits. How could he cancel it? Absolutely not. Lu Weiyang, don't go too far. If you don't cancel it, I will tell everyone what you did before and let everyone know. Han Yu said fiercely. Han Yu, Lu Weiyang's face darkened. He naturally knew what Han Yu was going to say. Of course, it was about how he gave the divine medicine to Zhu Shi and betrayed Han Yu and the others to save his life. Once this matter was exposed, Lu Weiyang's reputation would be tarnished. Therefore, he hesitated for a moment. Han Yu, it's okay. Since he wants to gamble, let's gamble. Lu Ming said. But Lu Ming, Han Yu was very worried. Han Yu, since Lu Ming wants to gamble, don't meddle in other people's business. Lu Weiyang hurriedly seized the opportunity. He was ecstatic. Lu Ming insisted on gambling. He was really reckless. An inferior bloodline was indeed inferior. He didn't know the mystery of the sacred luminance's holy scroll at all. He thought that he was invincible just because he had some strength. Was his confidence inflated? Today, he would let him know what a vicious beating was. All right, it's settled then. Lu Ming waved his hand. Although Han Yu was anxious, she didn't say anything when she saw how determined Lu Ming was. Lu Ming had his reasons for being so confident. Although his human bloodline was indeed very low, and he wasn't sure how far he could go with just the power of his bloodline. His confidence came from the taboo power. He now knew that the taboo power was the power of the universe. What was the power of the universe? It was related to the entire universe and was the core power of the universe. No matter how strong the human bloodline was, it was still born from the universe. How could it compare to the power of the universe? He didn't believe that he couldn't even walk 10,000 meters with his taboo body. The people at the front were at least 1,000,000 meters away. Even if it was his first time walking less than 1,000,000 meters, he was still very confident that he could walk 10,000 meters. Then let's begin, Lu Weiyang said. He could not wait any longer. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He stepped out and landed on the surface of the lake. The lakeside and the lake seemed to be two completely different worlds. When Lu Ming stepped on the lake, a powerful force pressed down on Lu Ming. At the same time, the sacred luminance holy scroll in the middle of the lake also changed dramatically in Lu Ming's eyes. Originally, the sacred luminance holy scroll looked like a painting, but at this moment, the painting disappeared and was replaced by a figure. The figure of human King Xingxi. He saw human King Xingxi with his hands behind his back, standing in the void. His figure was majestic and indomitable, exuding a vast aura. That kind of aura was so vast that it made people have the urge to kneel down. In particular, there was a special force acting on his body, seeping into his body and making his blood boil. Is this the power of a human king? Maybe this power can really transform my bloodline? Lu Ming sensed carefully. However, he didn't plan to purify his bloodline for the time being. He would walk forward first. Swoosh, swoosh. Lu Ming stepped on the surface of the lake and moved forward quickly. Very soon he had walked 100 meters forward. As he moved forward, the power emitted by human King Xingxi became stronger and stronger. That kind of pressure was not only on the body, but also on the will. However, Lu Ming's willpower was so strong that this test was nothing to him. Seeing Lu Ming walk 100 meters, Lu Weiyang's expression didn't change. Because this was what he expected. With Lu Ming's strength, even if his bloodline level was low, his willpower wouldn't be weak. He would be surprised if he couldn't walk 100 meters. However, the difference between 100 meters and 10,000 meters was like heaven and earth. Later on, it wasn't just willpower that could be relied on. The power of the bloodline was crucial. Lu Ming didn't stop and continued to move forward. 200 meters, 300 meters, 400 meters, 600 meters. Soon, Lu Ming walked 1,000 meters forward. Han Yu looked surprised, but Lu Weiyang's face darkened. Lu Ming could walk 1,000 meters, which was somewhat beyond his expectations. At first, he wanted to bet 1,000 meters with Lu Ming. Fortunately, it was changed to 10,000 meters later. However, he's almost at the end. Look at him, his body is already trembling and his blood is boiling. His bloodline has reached its limit and he can't hold on any longer. Lu Weiyang sneered. His heart, which had been in his throat, was now completely at ease. Han Yu's face turned even uglier. She had already begun to think about how to prevent Lu Ming from becoming Lu Weiyang's slave after he lost. Lu Ming saved her life and she had to repay him. She definitely couldn't let her savior become Lu Weiyang's slave. At this time, Lu Ming's body was indeed trembling. He was indeed reaching his limit. It wasn't that his willpower couldn't hold on, but his body, or to be precise, his bloodline. At this point, Lu Ming did not use any taboo power. He merely relied on his body to walk. He wanted to see how far he could go with the power of his human bloodline alone. Sure enough, he was far from being comparable to other humans. Hold on a little longer. Let's see how far I can go in the end. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and continued to move forward, but his speed was getting slower and slower. Anyone who wasn't a fool could see that Lu Ming was about to reach his limit. Ah, it's not bad to get a slave. Lu Weiyang laughed as if he was sure to win. Lu Weiyang, can you let Lu Ming go and not make him a slave? Han Yu gritted her teeth and looked at Lu Weiyang with a pleading look. Han Yu, are you begging me? Unfortunately, I won't agree. Lu Weiyang refused proudly. Lu Weiyang, don't go too far. If you go too far, I'll tell everyone what you did before. Han Yu said, Humph, Han Yu, you're threatening me with this matter again. But compared to Lu Ming becoming a slave, I'll still benefit even if you tell them. Before I made the bet with Lu Ming, I was already mentally prepared, Lu Weiyang said coldly. If Han Yu told everyone that he had handed over the divine herb and escaped alone, his reputation would be tarnished at most. But if he could get an expert like Lu Ming as a slave, he would still benefit. Chapter 4999. With Lu Ming as his servant, he could send Lu Ming to some dangerous places to obtain more resources for him and increase his combat strength. As long as his strength increased, it didn't matter if his reputation was tarnished. Who would dare to criticize him in front of his face? In this world, strength determined everything. As long as one had strength, there would naturally be people trying to curry favor with him. A little reputation was nothing. Therefore, even if Han Yu threatened him with his cowardice, Lu Weiyang would not back down. He was determined to get hold of Lu Ming. Han Yu's face darkened. She didn't expect Lu Weiyang to not care about his reputation. Apart from threatening Lu Weiyang with this matter, there was no other way to make Lu Weiyang change his mind. Han Yu, if you want me to change my mind, I can let Lu Ming go. But if you agree to marry me as my concubine, I will agree. All of a sudden, Lu Weiyang changed the topic of conversation. His fiery eyes were fixed on Han Yu, sizing him up. He had been coveting Han Yu for a long time. If he could use Lu Ming's matter to get Han Yu, it would be a good thing. You don't even think about it? Han Yu glared at Lu Weiyang. She didn't expect Lu Weiyang to be so despicable as to take advantage of her misfortune. Lu Weiyang already had a wife. How could he want to marry her as his concubine? It was simply wishful thinking. She would never agree. If you don't agree, then forget it. Just watch Lu Ming become my servant. Lu Weiyang sneered. Han Yu bit her lips. She was full of worry, but there was nothing she could do. At this time, Lu Ming had moved a little further. He had already reached 1,500 meters. But after reaching this point, Lu Ming's body trembled even more violently. His body was constantly emitting red blood qi, which meant that he was about to reach his limit. Lu Ming, why are you so impulsive to bet with Lu Weiyang? I can't help you now, Han Yu sighed. She had tried her best, but there was nothing she could do. Congratulations, Brother Lu. You have gained a powerful servant. Brother Lu, today is a joyous occasion. You must treat us. The several young men who came with Lu Weiyang had already congratulated him in advance. Today at the Drunken Immortal Inn, it's my treat. We won't leave until we're drunk. Lu Weiyang laughed as if he had already won. Lu Weiyang wasn't the only one who thought that Lu Weiyang was going to win. Lu Ming had already reached his limit, but he had only walked 1,500 meters. The distance of 10,000 meters was just too far. Even if there was a miracle, it was impossible to reach 10,000 meters. Look that Lu Ming has stopped. It looks like he's about to admit defeat. A young man pointed at Lu Ming and said. Lu Weiyang was even more pleased with himself. Han Yu sighed deeply. It seemed that there would be no miracles. At this moment, everyone's eyes suddenly widened. This was because Lu Ming, who had been standing there motionlessly, suddenly moved and dashed forward. Yes, he was running, not walking slowly. He was even faster than before. Lu Ming stepped on the surface of the lake and moved forward rapidly like an arrow. In just a few breaths, Lu Ming had already crossed thousands of meters. Moreover, he didn't have the slightest intention to stop, nor did he have the slightest intention to slow down. He was still moving forward rapidly. 5,000 meters, 6,000 meters, 7,000 meters. In the blink of an eye, he was already 10,000 meters away. Han Yu was stunned. Lu Weiyang was stunned. The other young men were also stunned. Seeing that Lu Ming was about to cross 10,000 meters, Lu Weiyang suddenly screamed, "How is this possible? How is this possible? This is impossible." Just as he was screaming, Lu Ming successfully crossed the distance of 10,000 meters, but he didn't have the slightest intention to stop. He was still moving forward rapidly. Lu Weiyang's face was flushed. His mouth was open and his throat seemed to be stuck by a dead mouse. It was ugly and disgusting. Didn't Lu Ming stop? When he was about 1,500 meters away, Lu Ming had clearly reached his limit. They couldn't be wrong. At that time, Lu Ming had definitely reached his limit. But why did Lu Ming suddenly rush forward like a madman? What was going on? They couldn't figure it out. They were right. When he was 1,500 meters away, Lu Ming had indeed reached his limit with the help of the human race's bloodline power. But Lu Ming still had the forbidden power. As soon as Lu Ming ran the forbidden power, he suddenly found that the pressure of the sacred luminance scroll on his body disappeared without a trace. He didn't feel the slightest pressure. That was why his speed could soar and he rushed forward quickly. And this was because he suppressed his speed. Otherwise, he would be faster. The forbidden power is really mysterious. The sacred luminance scroll doesn't put pressure on my body and bloodline, but it still puts pressure on my willpower. Lu Ming's mind raced. The pressure of the sacred luminance scroll on his body was isolated by the forbidden power, but it didn't isolate his willpower. However, Lu Ming's willpower was so strong that at first, tens of thousands of meters or even hundreds of thousands of meters didn't affect him much. But in this way, the purification effect of the sacred luminance scroll on Lu Ming's bloodline also disappeared. His bloodline couldn't be purified. But it was Lu Ming's first time here. His current goal was to see how far he could go under the influence of the forbidden power and where his limit was. He would purify his bloodline later. After Lu Ming broke through 10,000 meters, he didn't slow down at all. He was still very fast. 10,000 meters, 20,000 meters, 50,000 meters, 100,000 meters. After a while, Lu Ming walked a distance of 500,000 meters. The distance between him and the sacred luminance scroll was getting closer and closer. This speed alarmed some of the people who were cultivating nearby. Many people opened their eyes and looked at Lu Ming, who was moving forward at high speed, in shock. There were many people in the Azure Divine Realm who could walk a distance of 500,000 meters. However, there were very few people who could maintain such a speed after 50 meters. At the lakeside, Han Yu, Lu Weiyang and the others were completely petrified. Especially Lu Weiyang, his face was very ugly. The suppression of willpower here is getting stronger and stronger. When he walked out 600,000 meters, Lu Ming's speed finally began to slow down. His body didn't feel any pressure, but the pressure on his willpower was getting stronger and stronger. How powerful was the Sacred Luminance Human King? The Sacred Luminance Scroll he created contained the will of the Sacred Luminance and his Tao. It was like a brilliant heavenly power, supreme and supreme. People couldn't help but want to kneel down and be convinced. They couldn't raise the slightest thought of resistance. Once that happened, it meant that he had reached his limit. However, although Lu Ming felt that the pressure was getting stronger and stronger, it hadn't reached his limit yet. It just slowed down Lu Ming's speed a little. Lu Ming was still moving forward. 700,000 meters, 800,000 meters, 900,000 meters. In the end, under everyone's shocked eyes, he rushed over 1,000,000 meters. Chapter 5000. Lu Ming rushed over 1,000,000 meters. This was the limit, because this place was already very close to the Sacred Luminance Holy Scroll. Only a few people were able to reach this place. However, Lu Ming had not reached his limit yet. Lu Ming only needed to bear the mental pressure, which was incomparable to others. However, Lu Ming himself did not want to go forward. If he went forward, he would attract too much attention. In fact, he was already very eye-catching here, but at least there were others who came here. Lu Ming did not stop. He turned around and headed back. He walked back at a faster speed. Soon he was back at the lakeside. Well, I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Lu Weiyang finally came to his senses and wanted to find a chance to slip away. But how could Lu Ming let him go easily? Lu Ming took a step forward and stood in front of Lu Weiyang. Lu Ming, what do you want to do? Lu Weiyang said in a flattering tone. What do I want to do? You know the answer. Lu Ming sneered and pointed to a pool of mud on the lakeside, saying, fulfill the bet and swallow that pool of mud. Lu Weiyang's face turned pale and he shouted, Lu Ming, don't push your luck. That bet was just a casual remark. It was just a casual remark. There are witnesses here. Miss Han Yu, don't you think so? Lu Ming looked at Han Yu and said. Lu Weiyang obviously wanted to go back on his word, but how could Lu Ming let Lu Weiyang go so easily? Well, you did have this bet, but… Han Yu stammered. Lu Ming could see that Han Yu seemed to be a little afraid of Lu Weiyang. So Lu Ming directly said, that's enough. Lu Weiyang, hurry up. As he spoke, Lu Ming's powerful aura pressed down on Lu Weiyang, making Lu Weiyang involuntarily take a few steps back. At this time, many human experts who were cultivating here gathered around curiously and looked at Lu Ming and Lu Weiyang as if they were watching a show. Lu Weiyang, since you've made the bet, then swallow it. That's right. A real man must admit defeat. Those who were watching the show started to make a fuss. Lu Weiyang's face became even uglier and almost twisted. He shouted, Lu Ming, do you really think you've won? You're cheating. Yes, you're cheating. You're just an inferior bloodline. How can you reach a distance of 1 million meters? The more he said, the brighter Lu Weiyang's eyes became. The more he said, the more he felt that Lu Ming was cheating. You clearly reached your limit at 1,500 meters, but then you suddenly broke out. I don't believe that you're not cheating. So, I won this bet. Lu Ming, you're going to be my slave. Lu Weiyang continued to shout. Lu Ming was almost amused. Lu Weiyang was really despicable. He wanted to confuse right and wrong. Are you going to eat or not? If you don't, then I'll have to invite you to eat. Lu Ming sneered and then grabbed at Lu Weiyang. Lu Ming, how dare you? Lu Weiyang shouted hysterically. Of course, he would not surrender. He resisted with all his strength and frantically retreated. Stop! How dare you? The few young men who came with Lu Weiyang also shouted and helped Lu Weiyang. They attacked one after another, trying to stop Lu Ming. However, the combat strength of these people was far inferior to Lu Ming. Lu Weiyang himself was only a 9th-level divine master. The others were not even as strong as Lu Weiyang. How could they stop Lu Ming? Lu Ming's big hand pressed down and the attacks of these people collapsed. The next moment, Lu Ming grabbed Lu Weiyang with his big hand. Lu Ming roared and grabbed Lu Weiyang, only exposing Lu Weiyang's head. Then, he grabbed Lu Weiyang and pressed him into the pool of mud. Lu Ming, how dare you? Do you know who my grandfather is? Lu Weiyang shouted and wanted to use his grandfather to scare Lu Ming. Unfortunately, before he could finish, his head was pressed into the mud. He swallowed a few mouthfuls of mud. He did not know what the mud was made of. It was extremely smelly. After swallowing a few mouthfuls, Lu Weiyang almost vomited. Lu Ming raised his hand and pulled Lu Weiyang's head out of the mud. Lu Ming, I want you to die. I want you to die. Lu Weiyang completely lost it and roared crazily. He was sure that the mud was no different from the mud in a cesspit. It was too smelly. He actually ate such a thing. He was so disgusted that he wanted to vomit. Oh my God, this is a great humiliation. But before he could finish, Lu Ming pressed his head into the mud again. Lu Weiyang's mouth was screaming. Soon, he opened it and poured a few mouthfuls of mud into his mouth. Lu Weiyang struggled madly as if he was having convulsions, his whole body twitching nonstop. But in the hands of Lu Ming, he was like an ant. His struggle was useless. Han Yu was dumbfounded. Lu Ming was quite easy to talk to, but she did not expect him to be so ruthless. For Lu Ming, this was even worse than killing Lu Weiyang. Not only her, the onlookers around were also a little stunned. Lu Ming, do you know who Lu Weiyang's grandfather is? His grandfather is a powerful origin. His grandfather will not let you go if you treat Lu Weiyang like this. A young man roared. A powerful origin? Well, let him wake up and deal with me. Lu Ming smiled faintly. It was the great tribulation of the origin. Lu Ming was very scared to threaten him with an origin. As for the great tribulation of the origin, there were still hundreds of years to go. Those few young men had nothing to say. Lu Ming was simply impervious to all of them. At this time, Lu Ming pulled Lu Weiyang out of the mud again. Lu Ming, spare me, spare me. I know I was wrong, Lu Weiyang shouted. This time, he did not dare to be arrogant. Instead, he admitted his mistake. Since threats were useless, he would admit his mistake for the time being. He had to calm Lu Ming down first. Unfortunately, Lu Ming did not bother to pay attention to him at all. He continued to press Lu Weiyang into the mud. Lu Weiyang's body continued to convulse. During this period, Lu Ming pushed the mud into Lu Weiyang's mouth with his forbidden power. All of it was swallowed by Lu Weiyang. After a while, the pile of mud was almost completely eaten by Lu Weiyang. Then, Lu Ming threw Lu Weiyang onto the lakeside. *blurg, Lu Weiyang lay there and vomited wildly. He was about to vomit bile. Lu Ming stood there and watched quietly. After vomiting for half an hour, Lu Weiyang finally stopped. His face was pale and his face was distorted beyond recognition. He glanced at Lu Ming with hatred, then turned around and left without looking back. The other young men hurriedly followed and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Lu Weiyang is a narrow-minded person. He has suffered a great loss this time. I'm afraid he will not let it go. You have to be careful, Han Yu said worriedly. Chapter 5001. Lu Ming didn't care about Han Yu's reminder. So what if Lu Weiyang had a grudge against him? In this era where origin power didn't appear, he was almost invincible. He didn't fear anyone. Han Yu's worry was actually not wrong. Lu Weiyang's resentment towards Lu Ming was simply overwhelming. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn bastard, damn inferior bloodline. After flying far away, Lu Weiyang kept growling. His face was twisted with resentment and looked terrifying. Brother Lu, this Lu Ming is very strong. With our strength, I'm afraid we're no match for him. We need to kill him with a borrowed knife, a young man next to him reminded. Previously, when facing Lu Ming, they couldn't fight back at all. They knew very well that the gap between them and Lu Ming was huge. Of course I know this. But how can we kill him with a borrowed knife? Do you have any ideas? Lu Weiyang asked. Brother Lu, if you want to get someone else to do your dirty work, you have to figure out one thing first. Why is Lu Ming able to walk a distance of 1 million meters under the Holy Luminance Scroll? Previously, he clearly reached his limit when he walked 1,500 meters. A young man next to him spoke. He looked very shrewd. You're right. Lu Ming only has an inferior bloodline. It's already rare for him to be able to walk 1,500 meters. How can he walk a distance of 1 million meters? Could it be? At this point, Lu Weiyang's eyes flickered. He exchanged a look with the shrewd young man and the two of them said in unison, treasure. Yes, it's a treasure. Lu Weiyang said excitedly, this Lu Ming must have some kind of peerless treasure on him. It might even be related to a human king. He must have used that treasure to offset the pressure of the sacred luminance holy scroll. Yes, it must be so. The more he said, the more Lu Weiyang felt that this was the case. He guessed that Lu Ming hadn't used that treasure at the start, and had only used his bloodline power to resist. That was why he had reached his limit at 1,500 meters. Then he had activated that treasure, which had caused his speed to explosively increase. He had continued to advance for 1,000,000 meters. Lu Weiyang and the others were not fools. In fact, their guesses were not far from the truth. However, what Lu Ming used was not a treasure, but his own strength, a taboo strength. This was something they would never have guessed even if they were beaten to death. That's right, that's it. This kind of treasure is absolutely heaven-defying. If it falls into our hands, I'm afraid our bloodline will continue to transform, and our talent and potential will continue to increase. In the future, it will be easy for us to break through the extreme boundary. We might even be able to break through the extreme boundary twice or thrice. The eyes of Lu Weiyang and the others were also burning with greed. At this moment, they were certain that Lu Ming must have some kind of heaven-defying treasure on him, and they wanted to seize it for themselves. But how? With their strength, it was simply not enough. Thinking of this, it was like a basin of cold water poured on their hearts. Even if Lu Ming had a treasure, they couldn't get it. Brother Lu, we can only kill him with a borrowed knife. We can use other people's hands to deal with Lu Ming and seize his treasure. Perhaps, we can also benefit from that treasure and use it to cultivate. The shrewd young man said, "That's the only way. Who should we use?" Lu Weiyang whispered, "Brother Lu, what do you think of Lu Ming's combat strength? Is he at the second extreme boundary?" The shrewd young man asked. "It shouldn't be the second extreme boundary. When he fought with Zhu Shi, he didn't kill him instantly. Instead, it took him several moves. If he is an expert at the second extreme boundary, I'm afraid he can kill Zhu Shi in one move. I guess Lu Ming's combat strength should be at the limit of the first extreme boundary. He should be at the top of the first extreme boundary." Lu Weiyang said, "In that case, let's use Yan Qing to deal with Lu Ming. Yan Cheng's combat strength is at the second extreme boundary. He has always wanted to break through to the third extreme boundary, but his talent and potential have reached the limit. If we let him know that there is such a treasure, he will definitely be tempted." The shrewd young man said, "Then let's use Yan Cheng. We just need to leak this news to Yan Cheng." Lu Weiyang said and immediately went to Yan Cheng's residence. Lu Ming was still at the lakeside where the Holy Luminance Holy Scroll was. He didn't leave. He planned to use the Holy Luminance Holy Scroll to purify his bloodline. He didn't run the forbidden power. He just resisted it with his body. He walked more than 1,000 meters away and sat cross-legged on the lake. The powerful pressure of the Holy Luminance Holy Scroll was constantly exerting on him. He was covered by a layer of blood. He could feel that his human bloodline was slowly transforming. At some point, a young man appeared at the lakeside. His cold eyes fell on Lu Ming. This person was called Yan Qing. However, there were too many people here. He couldn't do anything at all. He could only secretly observe from afar and look for an opportunity. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. 10 days later, Lu Ming left the lake. "Brother Lu, why don't you continue to cultivate?" Han Yu asked curiously. "Cultivating for 10 days is slow. I'd better cultivate another day." Lu Ming smiled. Of course, this was just an excuse. In fact, his progress wasn't slow. In these 10 days, his human bloodline had indeed transformed and become purer. However, Lu Ming found that the improvement of his human bloodline didn't help improve his combat strength at all. His combat strength didn't improve at all. Lu Ming already knew that the purification of the human bloodline wouldn't improve their combat strength. It would improve their talent and potential. However, as a forbidden body, his talent and potential were so strong that he didn't need to purify his bloodline at all. He was confident that his talent and potential were definitely not worse than the top geniuses of the human race. Was there anyone in the Tsangqing divine realm who had broken through 4 times? Therefore, instead of wasting time purifying his bloodline, it was better to spend more time comprehending Genesis techniques. Lu Ming and Han Yu returned to their residence together. Seeing that Lu Ming and Han Yu were walking together, Yan Cheng could only follow from afar. He didn't have a chance to attack. The current era was no longer the previous era where the human race ruled the world. The human race was now very few in number. They were facing pressure from the creatures of the 5 forbidden lands. Therefore, the human race had to be united. Although there was no prohibition against fighting among the human race, it was absolutely forbidden to kill and steal treasures among members of the same race. If such a thing was discovered, they would definitely be punished severely. Therefore, if they wanted to kill and steal treasures, they had to do it secretly. When Lu Ming returned to his residence, Yan Cheng also appeared not far away. He still didn't attack. Lu Ming wasn't the only one living nearby. Han Yu and a few others also lived nearby. If he attacked, others would definitely be alerted. He continued to stand guard outside and waited. He heard from Lu Weiyang that Lu Ming might have a treasure that could allow Lu Ming to walk 1,000,000 meters with the help of the sacred luminance scroll. He was very tempted. Once he obtained such a treasure, he would definitely be able to break through his limit and break through 3 times. Chapter 5002. Yan Sheng stood guard outside Lu Ming's residence, waiting for Lu Ming to leave so that he could find an opportunity to attack. This wait lasted for half a year. Lu Ming had not taken a single step out of his room during this half a year. He had been in secluded cultivation to comprehend Genesis techniques. While comprehending Genesis techniques, he also waited for news from Mullins. Secluded cultivation for half a year was all too common, but waiting outside for half a year was not pleasant at all. Damn it, how long do I have to wait? If he goes into secluded cultivation for tens of thousands of years or even longer, do I have to wait here? Yan Cheng roared in his heart. It was all too common for divine masters to go into secluded cultivation for tens of thousands of years or even hundreds of thousands of years. This was especially true for peak divine masters. It was normal for them to go into secluded cultivation for longer periods of time in order to attack the origin source. No, I can't just wait. I need to change my strategy. Yan Cheng muttered as his mind rapidly turned. After a while, his eyes brightened as he made a decision. He stepped forward and arrived outside Lu Ming's courtyard as his voice rang out. I am Yan Cheng. I have come to pay my respects. In the courtyard, Lu Ming opened his eyes when he heard the voice. Yan Cheng? I've never heard of him. I don't think it's anything good for him to suddenly come looking for me. Lu Ming's heart trembled. However, he was bold and fearless as he loudly said, Please come in. With a wave of his hand, the door to the courtyard swung open. Yan Cheng walked in and saw Lu Ming standing in the middle of the courtyard. Brother Lu. Yan Cheng sized up Lu Ming for a moment before cupping his fists together. Brother Yan, we have never met before. May I know why you've come looking for me? Lu Ming asked. I've heard that Brother Lu's battle power is extremely high, and I'm itching to spar with Brother Lu. I hope Brother Lu can give me some pointers. Yan Cheng cupped his fists together as he looked at Lu Ming with bright eyes. His battle intent was overwhelming, as if he had to fight no matter what. As expected, it's nothing good. Lu Ming thought to himself. Since Brother Yan is in the mood, let's have a spar. Lu Ming immediately agreed. He knew that Yan Cheng definitely had a motive for coming here. He would definitely not let the matter rest. Even if he refused, Yan Cheng would probably find another reason to attack. Thus, he might as well directly agree and suppress the other party. Seeing Lu Ming agree, Yan Cheng was overjoyed and said, Brother Lu, a simple spar is too boring. How about we add some stakes? Here it comes. Lu Ming knew that Yan Cheng was about to reveal his true purpose. However, this was exactly what Lu Ming wanted. In his opinion, the other party was here to give him something. What prize? Lu Ming asked cooperatively. I heard that Brother Lu has a treasure that can help you walk 1,000,000 meters under the sacred luminant scroll. Let's use this treasure as the wager. If Brother Lu loses, you have to lend this treasure to me for 100 years. What do you think? Yan Cheng said. He didn't say that if Lu Ming lost, the treasure would belong to him. Instead, he said that he would borrow it for 100 years. He was afraid that if he directly said that it belonged to him, Lu Ming wouldn't dare to take the gamble. When the treasure was in his hands, it would be up to him whether he would return it or not. Treasure? So you think I can walk 1,000,000 meters under the sacred luminant scroll because of a treasure? Lu Ming was a little amused. Lu Weiyang, it seems that you want to kill me with a borrowed knife. Lu Ming immediately realized that this matter most likely had something to do with Lu Weiyang. Lu Weiyang thought that Lu Ming relied on some kind of treasure to walk 1,000,000 meters under the sacred luminant scroll. However, his own strength was far inferior to Lu Ming's, so he wanted to kill him with a borrowed knife. He leaked the news to Yan Cheng and wanted to use Yan Cheng to deal with him. It made perfect sense. Okay, I agree. But if you lose, what will you use as the wager? Lu Ming said. I will use this source-level magic weapon as the wager. If I lose, this source-level magic weapon will be yours. As he spoke, a battle sword appeared in Yan Cheng's hand. The battle sword was extremely sharp. It was indeed a source-level magic weapon. Okay, it's a deal, Lu Ming said. Although this battle sword was not a top-level source-level magic weapon and was just an ordinary source-level magic weapon, an ordinary source-level magic weapon was still very precious. In Heaven Destroyer, More than half of the origin energy did not have a source-level magic weapon. The more source-level magic weapons, the better. Since the other party wanted to give him a source-level magic weapon, there was no reason to refuse. He agreed so readily? Seeing that Lu Ming agreed so readily, Yan Cheng felt a little uncertain in his heart. Could it be that Lu Ming's combat strength was extremely powerful, so he was so confident? It shouldn't be. I'm a 2-time source-breaking expert. In the universe, how many people can break through twice? He probably doesn't know my combat strength, so he's so confident. Yan Cheng's mind raced as he tried to persuade himself. Brother Lu, please. Suppressing the uneasiness in his heart, Yan Cheng exuded a powerful aura. A vast aura was emitted from Yan Cheng's body. This aura made Lu Ming feel a little pressured. It did not come from the other party's combat strength, but from the other party's bloodline. Yan Cheng's human bloodline was extremely powerful and pure. It was like an ordinary divine dragon facing a 9-clawed dragon. Just the aura of the 9-clawed dragon alone was enough to make an ordinary divine dragon not dare to attack and bow down obediently. Yan Cheng knew that Lu Ming had an inferior bloodline, so when he attacked, he surged his blood essence and emitted a powerful aura. Under the aura of the bloodline, he could only use 60% of his strength. Unfortunately, he had underestimated Lu Ming. Lu Ming used a little taboo energy, and the aura disappeared without a trace. Then, Lu Ming directly attacked. With the taboo energy, he condensed a long spear and smashed it towards the other party. The spear light buzzed and carried a terrifying power. And the power was very condensed and did not dissipate. The terrifying power was completely concentrated in one place. Yan Cheng's face changed drastically. As soon as Lu Ming attacked, he could feel the terrifying power contained in the spear light. Without hesitation, he exploded with all his strength and used his strongest move to attack Lu Ming's spear light. In the next moment, the two attacks collided. There was no violent explosion, nor was there any wanton force. Because Lu Ming's spear light had instantly defeated Yan Cheng's attack, and the terrifying power fell on Yan Cheng's body. Yan Cheng's body trembled violently, and he retreated a dozen steps before he could stabilize himself. However, he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. I've lost. Yan Cheng's face was pale. He was defeated in just one move. He was defeated by Lu Ming as easily as breaking dead weeds and smashing rotten wood. Lu Ming's combat strength was clearly far above his. It was a complete suppression. Could it be that this person has the combat strength of a thrice extreme break? How can an inferior bloodline have such a strong combat strength? Yan Cheng was horrified. To be able to defeat him with such a crushing momentum without causing the slightest commotion, it was absolutely impossible for someone who had broken through the extreme break twice. Only a thrice extreme break could do it. In fact, he did not know that Lu Ming had not used his full strength at all and had shown mercy. Chapter 5003. If Lu Ming had used his full strength, Yan Cheng would not have just been injured. Instead, he would have likely been killed. Lu Ming had only used a portion of his strength, but it was already enough to make Yan Cheng so terrified. Do you still want to continue? Lu Ming did not continue as he icily asked. Lu Weiyang has misled me. Yan Cheng roared in his heart, his expression extremely ugly. In the end, he squeezed out a smile that was even uglier than crying. Brother Lu is truly a rare genius. Yan Cheng wholeheartedly accepts his defeat. What else could he do but admit defeat? After exchanging blows with Lu Ming earlier, he understood that the gap between him and Lu Ming was too great. If he continued, he would only be looking for a beating. How could he possibly dare to continue? Oh, if that's the case, then that source-grade weapon is mine. Lu Ming's eyes shined brightly as he looked at Yan Cheng, his powerful aura completely locking onto Yan Cheng. Yan Cheng really did not want to hand it over, but from Lu Ming's attitude, it would not be so easy for him to walk out of this courtyard if he did not hand it over. His expression grew increasingly ugly as he struggled in his heart. In the end, he decided to admit defeat and took out the source-level divine weapon and handed it to Lu Ming. Many thanks. Lu Ming grinned as he received it, but Yen Cheng's heart was dripping blood. Then I shall not disturb you any further. Goodbye. Yen Cheng cupped his fists together and quickly left. He hated Lu Weiyang to the bone. If not for Lu Weiyang, would he have lost an origin-grade weapon? After Yen Cheng left, Lu Ming continued his secluded cultivation to comprehend his genesis techniques. Lu Weiyang's residence. Yen Cheng has already entered Lu Ming's courtyard. Looks like there will be a result soon. Lu Weiyang was all smiles. He could already see Lu Ming being killed. Even if he was not killed, he would be beaten to a pulp. In the vicinity of Lu Ming's residence, he naturally sent people to secretly monitor it. Not long ago, they sent back news that Yen Cheng had entered Lu Ming's residence. He was now waiting for good news. As he spoke, he received a message from the voice transmission Jade Talisman. So fast. Lu Weiyang knew at a glance that it was sent by the people who were monitoring Lu Ming's residence. He was slightly surprised when he saw the content of the message. What did he say? The shrewd young man asked. According to the news, Yen Cheng has already left Lu Ming's residence and returned to his own residence. Lu Weiyang said. So fast? It seems that Lu Ming only has the power of a first-stage extreme breaker. He's not Yen Cheng's opponent at all, so he was suppressed so quickly. It seems Yen Cheng has already succeeded. The shrewd young man analyzed. Let's go. We'll look for Yen Cheng and find out more about the situation. If possible, we'll be able to get some benefits, Lu Weiyang said. If Yen Cheng really managed to get his hands on Lu Ming's treasure, they wanted it too. Perhaps they could borrow it from Yen Cheng for a period of time. Thinking of this, their hearts were burning with eagerness. They rushed to Yen Cheng's residence impatiently. When Yen Cheng returned to his residence, he swallowed a few divine pills, sat cross-legged, and healed his injuries. Not long after he healed, he heard a voice coming from outside. Brother Yen, are you here? Lu Weiyang wants to see you. Yen Cheng abruptly opened his eyes, flames of fury burning within them. He hadn't gone to find trouble with Lu Weiyang yet, but Lu Weiyang came to find him. How dare he? If it weren't for Lu Weiyang's grandfather, he would have killed his way to Lu Weiyang's place. However, there were only a few hundred years before the origin tribulation. At that time, Lu Weiyang's grandfather would wake up. He knew very well that Lu Weiyang's grandfather was very powerful. Even in the origin, he was considered a powerful expert. Yen Cheng didn't have any backing, so he didn't dare to offend Lu Weiyang too much. Taking a deep breath, Yen Cheng suppressed the anger in his heart. With a wave of his hand, the gate of the courtyard opened. He said coldly, "Come in." Lu Weiyang and the others strode in and saw Yen Cheng. Congratulations, Brother Yen. Congratulations, Brother Yen. You've obtained a supreme treasure. There's hope for you to break through 3 times in the future. I'm really envious. Lu Weiyang smiled and cupped his fists to congratulate him as soon as he arrived, but his voice became softer and softer as he spoke. Because he saw Yen Cheng's face getting uglier and uglier. At this moment, the anger in Yen Cheng's heart had completely exploded. He could no longer suppress it. Lu Weiyang, are you here to laugh at me? Yen Cheng said coldly. Laugh at you? Brother Yen, why do you say that? Lu Weiyang said. He already had a bad feeling in his heart. Get lost. Yen Cheng could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. With a roar, a violent aura rushed out, forcing Lu Weiyang and the others to stagger back. Yen Cheng, what are you doing? Lu Weiyang shouted. Get lost. If you don't get lost, I'll throw you out. Yen Cheng roared. If it weren't for his fear of Lu Weiyang's grandfather, Yen Cheng would have definitely attacked at this moment and stomped his foot on Lu Weiyang's face. The fact that he could resist the urge to attack was already very strong. Even so, Yen Cheng was already on the verge of going berserk. Let's go. Seeing that Yen Cheng was about to go berserk, Lu Weiyang and the others did not dare to stay any longer. They hurriedly left Yen Cheng's residence and ran far away as if they were fleeing. What's wrong with Yen Cheng? Why did he suddenly go crazy? A young man shouted in a bad mood. It seems that not only did Yen Cheng fail, but he also suffered a great loss in the hands of Lu Ming, the shrewd young man said. That's right. Yen Cheng's aura is weak. He should be injured. Could it be that he was injured by Lu Ming? That Lu Ming actually has such combat strength? Lu Weiyang said in a low voice with an ugly expression. Lu Ming could actually injure Yan Qing. How was this possible? Could it be that Lu Ming hid his strength when he was dealing with Zhu Shi? Otherwise, how could he explain Yan Qing's angry appearance after being injured? Yan Qing should have suffered a loss in the hands of Lu Ming. I wonder if that Lu Ming was injured? The shrewd young man said. Whether Lu Ming was injured or not made a big difference. If Lu Ming was also injured, it meant that Lu Ming's combat strength was about the same as Yan Qing's. Even if he was stronger, he wouldn't be much stronger. If Lu Ming wasn't injured, then Lu Ming's combat strength would be terrifying. Send someone to keep an eye on Lu Ming at all times, Lu Weiyang shouted angrily. He was very unhappy. Whether Lu Ming was injured or not, at least it proved that Lu Ming had the combat strength of at least the second stage of breaking through. A mere inferior bloodline actually had such combat strength. He was mad with jealousy. Brother Lu, what should we do now? Are we just going to let it go? Another young man said. How can we just let it go? Lu Weiyang's eyes were extremely cold and full of killing intent. When he thought of the scene of swallowing mud, he felt nauseous and wanted to vomit. That was his nightmare. The anger in his heart and the killing intent in his heart couldn't be suppressed. He had to take revenge for this. Maybe we can start with Mulin's, the shrewd young man said. You're right. Lu Ming said that he is Mulin's junior brother, but I feel that their relationship is not that simple, Lu Weiyang said. Chapter 5004. The killing intent in Lu Weiyang's eyes slowly receded and was replaced by a sly light. I have a feeling that Lu Ming and Mulan are definitely not as simple as senior and junior siblings. If they are merely senior and junior siblings, why would Lu Ming disregard the danger and search for them from the Eastern universe? I think there's something going on between them. Lu Weiyang said. That's right. The other youths nodded. Hee. There are countless people pursuing Mulins in the Azure Divine Domain. If Lu Ming and Mulins are having an affair, we can still kill them with a borrowed knife. Killing intent surged in Lu Weiyang's eyes. Brother Lu, you're really smart. I can't wait. A young man flattered. Come, let's go to Mulins's residence. Lu Weiyang said. Time passed quickly. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. During these 3 years, Lu Ming had been comprehending Genesis techniques. Of course, he would extract Origin Spirit medicinal liquid from top-tier source-grade divine herbs every month. He now had a total of 8 top-tier source-grade divine herbs. 5 of them came from the Eastern Universe. Of the other 3, 1 came from Zhu Shi, and the other 2 came from the Demon Kraken of the extreme evil race. 8 stalks of top-notch source-level divine herbs meant that he could obtain 8 drops of source spirit medicinal liquid every month. This allowed Lu Ming to improve very quickly. Every month, his origin seed would grow bigger and his power of origin would become stronger. Brother Lu, are you there? Han Yu's voice came from outside. Could senior sister Mulin's have come out of seclusion? Lu Ming's heart thumped. Han Yu had the contact of Mulins's maid. The maid had said that Mulin's would send a message to Han Yu when she came out of seclusion, and Han Yu would inform Lu Ming. Han Yu hadn't come looking for Lu Ming in the past 3 years. Now that he suddenly came looking for him, Lu Ming couldn't help but think of Mulin's. In a flash, Lu Ming left the courtyard and appeared in front of Han Yu. Lu Ming, I just received news that your senior sister, Mulin's, has come out of seclusion. Han Yu said. Lu Ming was delighted. Go! Lu Ming couldn't wait to go to Mulin's residence. Heavenly Orchid Court. A silhouette stood quietly in the middle of the courtyard. This woman was none other than Mulin's. After not seeing her for a while, Mulins's temperament was even better than before. Her entire body was filled with temptation. A few maids stood at the side. Miss Mulin's, have you successfully broken through? A maid asked curiously. Not bad, the breakthrough this time went very smoothly. Now, I should have the battle prowess of someone who has broken through twice. Mulin's said with a smile on her face. A person who had broken through the pinnacle twice would be considered a top genius in the entire universe, let alone in the firmament divine realm. Even if the 5 forbidden lands were included, there wouldn't be too many. Lu Ming, I should be worthy of you now. Perhaps I'm already above you. Mullins said in her heart. Perhaps she should find a chance to return to the universe in the East. In the past, it was very difficult for her to pass through the void between the East and West universes before her cultivation reached the phenomenal level. Now, she had broken through the pinnacle twice and was invincible in the universe except for the invincible Divine Master. She was confident that she could pass through the void and return. She couldn't wait to return to Lu Ming's side. Now, she had enough confidence. Back then, she took the initiative to leave Lu Ming because she felt inferior and felt that the distance between her and Lu Ming was too far. Now, she had finally caught up. Congratulations, miss, for breaking through the pinnacle twice. The maids were also overjoyed and congratulated her one after another. Did anything happen during this time? Mullins asked. Nothing else. When you were in seclusion, there were people coming to you every day. One of the maids said. Mullins sighed. She didn't know how many times she had rejected those people, but they didn't give up and kept pestering her. It seemed that she had to return to the universe as soon as possible. Mullins, congratulations. At this moment, a voice was heard. In the distance, a young man stepped on the air. The young man's white clothes fluttered in the wind, and he was extraordinarily handsome. Lu Feng. Mullins frowned slightly. Lu Feng was considered a top existence among all of Mullins's suitors. He was a peerless genius who had broken through the pinnacle twice. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air was heard. There were people coming from several directions. At least 7 or 8 figures flew over. They were all young elites. Mullins, congratulations on coming out of seclusion. Mullins, have you broken through the pinnacle twice? Congratulations, I'm so happy. These young men congratulated her one after another, and some directly flattered her. Did you send them the news? Mullins glanced at the maids. The maids blushed and were a little embarrassed. One of them said, Miss, they kept pestering us and many of them have extraordinary status. We didn't dare to offend them. Yes, miss, please forgive us. The other maids also said. Mullins sighed. She also knew the difficulties of the maids. These young elites were either very talented or had extraordinary status. They had powerful backers behind them. Mullins couldn't afford to offend them, let alone the maids. She also knew that she couldn't blame the maids. What are you doing here? Get lost. Lu Feng glanced at the other 7 or 8 young men and shouted coldly with a cold gaze. Lu Feng, if you can come, can't we? One of the purple-robed young men sneered and replied without fear of Lu Feng. As a person, you have to know your own limits. Now that Mullins has broken through the pinnacle twice, she is very talented and has a limitless future. You guys are not worthy of her. If you know what's good for you, you should leave. Lu Feng sneered. Lu Feng, the purple-robed young man's face turned ugly. However, Lu Feng had broken through the pinnacle twice, while he had only broken through the pinnacle once. He didn't know how to refute Lu Feng's words. Well said. But in my opinion, Lu Feng, you don't have the right either. Get lost too. There was another loud laugh, and a burly figure stepped through the air. Yuan Jie. Lu Feng's eyes narrowed and showed a hint of fear. The burly young man was called Yuan Jie, and he was also a pinnacle prodigy who had broken through the pinnacle twice. Most importantly, because they were both Mullins's pursuers, Lu Feng had fought with Yuan Jie before. The two of them exchanged more than 100 blows, and Lu Feng was defeated in the end. Yuan Jie's combat power was above Lu Feng's even though they were both at the pinnacle twice. Yuan Jie, it's been 1,000 years. I might not lose to you now. Lu Feng snorted coldly. It wasn't that he hadn't improved over the years. Is that so? Then let's fight again. Yuan Jie's eyes showed a strong fighting spirit. It was very domineering. At this moment, there were more than 100 people around Sky Orchid Garden. Of course, not all of them were Mullins's pursuers. There were also some who were here to watch the show. There were also some women who were Mullins's good friends. Mullins's identity was very special. She was the savior of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. If it weren't for her, the Ashen Azure Divine Realm would probably still be sealed. Chapter 5005. Mullins was not only the great benefactor of the Ashen Azure Divine Realm, but she was also the disciple of a top expert in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm. Most importantly, Mullins's talent was also peerless. Although she had broken through the limit twice, her potential had not been fully developed. A big shot in the Ashen Azure Divine Realm once judged that Mullins had the potential to break through the limit 3 times. Breaking through the limit 3 times was so rare that there were not many in the entire universe. More importantly, there was a prefix, at least, in front of it, which was even rarer. Therefore, even if they were not pursuing Mullins, they would still befriend Mullins, regardless of whether they were men or women. Therefore, as soon as Mullins broke through, a large number of people came to congratulate her. Among them were Lu Weiyang and a few of his bad friends. The main purpose of Lu Weiyang's visit was not to congratulate Mullins. He knew that since Mullins had broken through, Lu Ming would definitely come. If Mullins and Lu Ming were extraordinary, they might be able to provoke a dispute between Lu Ming and those suitors. Lu Ming is so slow. If he doesn't come soon, these people will fight among themselves. Lu Weiyang muttered, secretly hoping that Lu Ming would come soon. In the Heavenly Orchid Court, Mullins looked at the increasing number of people around her and felt more and more helpless. She really hated this kind of situation. By the way, miss, when you were in seclusion, your junior brother came to see you. At this time, a servant girl said, "My junior brother? My master only has me as his disciple. Where did my junior brother come from?" Mullins was a little surprised. Before the Great Tribulation of Origin, she had been accepted as a disciple by a big shot in the Firmament Divine Realm. This big shot had not accepted any other disciples before taking her in as his disciple. Not long after that, the Great Tribulation of Origin arrived. That big shot then sealed himself and went into a deep sleep. How could there be a junior brother? Could it be? Suddenly, Mullins's eyes lit up and emitted a dazzling light. At the same time, her breathing became a little rapid. But immediately she felt a little uneasy. Was it really possible? She naturally thought of Lu Ming. Lu Ming had always called her senior sister. But how could Lu Ming come here? The Western universe and the Eastern universe were separated by a vast and boundless void zone. It was extremely difficult to cross the border. Besides, wasn't Lu Ming in the starry sky of the universe? It was even further away from the Western universe. Without the cultivation of a peak almighty, it was impossible to cross such a long distance. How many years had it been? Lu Ming had reached the peak of the Almighty Master realm. The reason why she was able to achieve so much was that she had obtained a heaven-defying opportunity on the ancient path of stars. She had obtained a heaven-defying fortune, and her body had undergone a complete transformation. Later, she had entered the Firmament Divine Realm and obtained a large amount of resources to support her. Lu Ming's talent was high, but it was limited to a corner of the universe. Compared to the vast universe, the creatures in the Forbidden Lands, and the human race's top talents in the Firmament Divine Realm, he was too far away. She was not looking down on Lu Ming. She was very confident in Lu Ming. But when she left, Lu Ming was still developing in a corner of the universe. Compared to the vast universe, a corner of the universe was too far away. Even if she trusted Lu Ming, she was not sure that Lu Ming could reach peak almighty in a little more than 10,000 years. But deep in her heart, she was very hopeful. In the universe, other than Lu Ming, who else would call himself her junior brother? What's his name? Mullins looked at the servant girl nervously and expectantly. Her voice was trembling, and she completely ignored the people around her. The servant girls were very surprised. They had rarely seen Mullins so agitated. "Miss, that person called himself Lu Ming. He came from the Eastern universe," a servant girl said. "It's really him. It's really him." Mullins's heart was beating wildly. Her face was flushed with excitement. She kept muttering to herself, unable to control herself. At this moment, there were at least 100 people around. They were stunned when they saw Mullins's expression. Why was Mullins so agitated? In the crowd, Lu Weiyang was also a little surprised. But his eyes kept looking around. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. He's here. Lu Ming is here. In the distant void, Lu Ming and Han Yu stepped on the void. They were extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, they were in front of them. When Lu Ming arrived, he saw Mulin's at first glance. Senior sister, Lu Ming couldn't help but call out. He didn't hide it at all. His voice traveled far and reached Mulin's ears. Mulin's delicate body trembled. She was all too familiar with this voice. The voice that she had been thinking about day and night couldn't be wrong. It was Lu Ming. It was Lu Ming. Mulin's raised her head in surprise and saw Lu Ming standing in the void, looking at her without blinking. At this moment, Mulin's heart completely melted. She stepped on the void and rushed towards Lu Ming. At this moment, she only had one thought. She wanted to jump into Lu Ming's arms. However, when she arrived in front of Lu Ming, she couldn't help but stop. She thought of the past. She thought of Lu Ming's attitude towards her back then. She thought of Xian Yanqing. She thought of the autumn moon. When she thought of this, she hesitated and stared blankly at Lu Ming. After a while, she called out, "Junior brother." After calling him junior brother, she felt as if something was stuck in her throat. She couldn't say anything else. However, in the next moment, she felt a strong arm wrapped around her slender waist. A strong force surged, and Mulin's couldn't help but lean into Lu Ming's arms. She didn't resist. Instinctively, she didn't want to resist. Just like that, she threw herself into Lu Ming's arms. She was deeply embraced by Lu Ming. "Senior sister, I've finally found you. From now on, I'll never let you leave me again." Lu Ming's voice rang in Mulin's ears. Mulin's replied. At this moment, something seemed to have exploded in her heart. All the resentment, blame, and helplessness in the past were completely forgotten. All that was left was happiness. She only hoped that this moment could last until the end of time. Everyone around was dumbfounded. Many people's mouths were wide open. They were all stunned. What's going on? Even Lu Weiyang, who had been mentally prepared, was a little stunned at this moment. Those who were pursuing Mulan were in an uproar. Let go, you little bastard. Let go. Take your dirty hands away. You're dead. I'm going to cripple your hands. Where did this inferior bloodline come from? How dare you molest Miss Mulin's? You're courting death. Many people roared and their eyes widened. What did Lu Ming do? He actually dared to hold their goddess in his arms in front of us. How dare he? He's courting death. In an instant, at least dozens of people rushed towards Lu Ming. Dozens of murderous auras locked onto Lu Ming. In the crowd, Lu Weiyang was ecstatic. Chapter 5006. Lu Weiyang was truly ecstatic, his heart bursting with joy. His original goal had been to find an opportunity to provoke a conflict between Lu Ming and those suitors of Mulin's so that he could use them to deal with Lu Ming. He had not expected that before he could even act, Lu Ming would seek his own death. Yes, in his view, Lu Ming was seeking his own death. Lu Ming had dared to embrace Mulin's in front of everyone. How many faces had he slapped and hearts had he hurt? There were definitely countless people who wanted nothing more than to grind Lu Ming's bones to dust. At this moment, it was too late for Lu Ming to kneel and admit his mistake. Lu Ming was dead for sure. There was no need for him to do anything. However, Lu Ming turned a blind eye to the situation around him. He continued, "Senior sister, it's been more than 10,000 years since we last met. Junior brother really misses you. Junior brother Lu Ming, senior sister misses you too," Mulin's softly said. Her heart was so sweet that it seemed like it would melt away. 10,000 years of waiting had not been in vain. However, the surrounding people were about to explode from anger. Not only did Lu Ming not let go of Mulin's, he even spoke such intimate words to Mulin's, completely ignoring them. Courting death. Swoosh swoosh. Finally, two people could not help but strike. Two extremely sharp sword gleams pierced toward Lu Ming's heart from the back. The power was very shocking. Peak God Lord. Lu Ming did not need to look to know that these two attacks had the power of a peak God Lord. However, they only had the power of an ordinary peak godlord. Lu Ming did not even turn his head. He flicked 2 fingers behind him, and 2 spear lights shot out and collided with the 2 sword lights. Buzz! Buzz! The 2 swords violently vibrated, and then the 2 figures retreated, each vomiting blood. At this moment, Lu Ming released Mulin's and glanced behind him. It was 2 youths who had attacked Lu Ming. The 2 youths' cultivation was at the 9th level of the Godlord realm, but their fighting strength was at the peak of the Godlord realm. Lu Ming could not help but sigh. The human clan of the Firmament Divine Realm was indeed astonishingly talented. The human clan of the universe could not compare to them. This had something to do with their bloodline. If Lu Ming did not have a forbidden body, his talent would definitely be far from these people's. It was no wonder that some people in the Azure Divine Realm looked down on those with inferior bloodlines. It was not without reason. They were definitely not many people like them. In Heaven Destroyer. Except a few people like Lu and a few people. Apart from a few people like Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. And a few people like them. There were many such people in the Azure Divine Realm. You want to sneak attack me with just the 2 of you? You overestimate yourselves. Lu Ming said coldly. What big words. I'd like to see where your confidence comes from. A cold voice sounded. A purple-robed youth appeared in front of Lu Ming. This youth was extremely strong. He had the fighting strength of a first breakthrough. Gu Ji, what do you want? This has nothing to do with you. Back off. Mulins shouted. Mulins, this is between us men. You don't have to care. Are you going to protect him forever? The purple-robed young man, Gu Ji, continued to look at Lu Ming. Lad, I want to challenge you now. If you're a man, fight me. Gu Ji's eyes flashed fiercely. He was about to explode from anger. Lu Ming dared to touch Mulin's. He had to break Lu Ming's claws. Gu Ji, if you want to touch junior brother Lu Ming, you'll have to get through me first. Mulin's roared, her powerful energy erupting and locking onto Gu Ji. Lu Ming had just injured 2 9th-level Divine Lord prodigies with 1 move. His fighting strength exceeded Mulin's expectations and gave her a pleasant surprise. But Gu Ji was a first breakthrough expert. His fighting strength was far from what those 2 youths could compare to. He was afraid that Lu Ming would be at a disadvantage. There was another person in the crowd who was also moving, Lu Weiyang. Go and invite Pang Xiao. Tell him that Mulin's was hugged by a man. Pang Xiao will definitely go crazy. Lu Weiyang secretly ordered a youth. Others didn't know Lu Ming's fighting strength, but Lu Weiyang knew a little. Even Yanqing had been defeated by Lu Ming. Lu Ming definitely had the fighting strength of a second breakthrough expert. Gu Ji definitely wasn't a match for Lu Ming. Not to mention Gu Ji, even the other prodigies who had a second breakthrough might not be able to take down Lu Ming. So, he had to prepare for both sides. Pang Xiao was also a peerless prodigy of the Azure Divine Realm and had the fighting strength of a second breakthrough expert. However, Pang Xiao's second stage extreme break was different from other second stage extreme break cultivators. Pang Xiao's fighting strength was at the top even among second breakthrough experts. It was said that he had once exchanged more than 10 moves with a third breakthrough expert and escaped unscathed. With such combat strength, he was just a step away from breaking through the limit 3 times. More importantly, Pang Xiao was also a loyal admirer of Mulin's. If he knew that Lu Ming dared to hug Mulin's in public, he would definitely go crazy. For some reason, Pang Xiao didn't come today, so Lu Weiyang sent someone to inform him. Anyway, Lu Ming would be miserable today. Seeing Mulin standing in front of him, Lu Ming felt warm in his heart, knowing that Mulin's was protecting him. But did he need protection? Senior sister, I can deal with such a guy. Don't worry. Lu Ming smiled and took Mulin's hand and pulled Mulin's behind him. Around them, many people stared at Lu Ming's hand holding Mulin's hand and their eyes were about to spit fire. They wanted to replace him. Gu Ji's eyes were full of murderous intent. If looks could kill, Lu Ming would have been riddled with holes. Mulin's, Lu Ming has accepted my challenge. Are you still going to stop him? Gu Ji said. Junior brother. Mulin's looked at Lu Ming and saw the confidence in Lu Ming's eyes. It was the same confidence as before. Mulin's heart calmed down. She knew that Lu Ming must be confident. "Junior brother, be careful," Mulin said with concern and then slowly stepped back. The others were envious. How good would it be if Mulin's was so concerned about them? "Make your move. I'll give you 3 moves." Gu Ji said coldly. He was very confident. How strong could an inferior bloodline be? He was confident that he could easily suppress Lu Ming. The combat strength of the human race was often linked to their bloodline. The purer the bloodline, the higher the bloodline grade, and the higher the talent potential, the stronger the combat strength. That was because some of the high-level cultivation techniques and secret techniques of the human race were related to the bloodline grade. The higher the bloodline grade, the higher the level of those cultivation techniques and secret techniques. That was why the human race cared so much about bloodline. On the other hand, Lu Ming only had an inferior bloodline. How powerful would he be? Those ancient cultivation techniques and secret techniques of the human race couldn't be cultivated to a high level by an inferior bloodline. Gu Ji is really an idiot. Lu Weiyang cursed in his mind. However, he didn't say anything. He wasn't familiar with Gu Ji. Why should he remind him? It would be better if he didn't. If he didn't, Gu Ji would definitely be defeated by Lu Ming. In that case, Lu Ming would definitely offend Gu Ji. Wouldn't it be better to have one more enemy for Lu Ming? Chapter 5007. Not only Gu Ji, but Lu Weiyang would also not warn the others. These people had suffered greatly because of Lu Ming, so they would definitely hold a grudge against Lu Ming. After Lu Ming offended these people, Pang Xiao would come and beat Lu Ming half to death. Wouldn't that be perfect? You'll let me have 3 moves? Sure. Lu Ming had a strange expression on his face. This Gu Ji was really confident. However, he wouldn't go easy on him. Swoosh! Lu Ming attacked directly. His body was like a flash of lightning as he charged towards Gu Ji. At the same time, the divine battle spear appeared and rapidly enlarged before slamming down on Gu Ji. Initially, the ancient extreme did not intend to retaliate. Instead, he planned to take on Lu Ming's attack with ease and elegance. He wanted to show off in front of Mulan and leave a good impression on her. However, his expression changed as soon as Lu Ming attacked. The power of the battle god spear was simply too terrifying. It was so terrifying that his hair stood on end. Terrifying, powerful, unbearable. Ah, how can he be so powerful? How is this possible? Gu Ji roared in his heart. He could no longer remain calm. What did he mean by relaxed and elegant? The only thing on his mind now was to block Lu Ming's attack. Third form of King Path Sword, Crimson World. Gu Ji roared. His blood boiled as he raised his combat strength to the maximum and slashed out. A sword radiance shot up into the sky and clashed with the divine battle spear. Boom! The 2 attacks collided. Gu Ji's sword glow shuddered violently, which lasted for around 3 breaths before it collapsed. The divine battle spear did not stop there, as it continued to attack. Gu Ji's face turned pale. At this critical moment, he could only raise his battle sword to block the attack. Clang! The divine battle spear clashed with Gu Ji's battle sword. Gu Ji's face flushed red as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was like a cannonball as he slammed into the ground. The ground of the firmament divine realm was extremely hard, but Gu Ji still created a large hole in the ground. What? Everyone around him was stunned. Gu Ji, who had broken through once, was actually defeated by Lu Ming in 1 move. How could Lu Ming, who had an inferior bloodline, be so powerful? Even Mulin's was surprised. Lu Ming, you're despicable. You actually sneak attacked me. At this time, Gu Ji roared, his anger soaring to the sky. Of course, this was an act. He had fought Lu Ming for real just now, so he knew how powerful Lu Ming was. The power surging from the war god's spear was too strong. Even if he was fully prepared, it was impossible for him to block it. The outcome would be the same. Then why did he accuse Lu Ming of launching a sneak attack? Of course, it was to save face. Just now, he was so confident that he would let Lu Ming have 3 moves first. In the end, he was defeated by Lu Ming in 1 move. This was really too shameful. especially in front of Mulin's, in front of his competitors. Of course, he would say that Lu Ming launched a sneak attack. This would not be a problem of his battle strength, but Lu Ming's despicability. As for whether others would be defeated by Lu Ming because they looked down on Lu Ming, he was too lazy to care. He couldn't wait. Most of the youths around were Mulin's pursuers and his competitors. He couldn't wait for others to be defeated by Lu Ming. That way, everyone would be humiliated, and his embarrassment wouldn't be so obvious. Sure enough, when Gu Ji said this, the others also reacted. Just now, it was indeed Lu Ming who suddenly attacked. It was indeed a sneak attack. Despicable, he actually launched a sneak attack. How despicable! That's right, he only knows how to launch sneak attacks. How can such a despicable person be qualified to pursue Mulin's? Lu Ming, come out and die. Many people shouted, and some stepped out, their powerful auras filling the air. Those who stepped out were all experts. They were all existences who had broken through in one go. There were a total of 4 of them. These people weren't stupid. Even if Lu Ming had launched a sneak attack, he could defeat Gu Ji in one move. His battle strength was definitely not weak. Ordinary Almighty wouldn't be a match for Lu Ming. Therefore, those who didn't have breaking through combat strength could only curse, but they didn't dare to make a move. Those who dared to force Lu Ming were all existences who had breaking through. However, several of the strongest prodigies, such as Lu Feng and Yuan Jie, didn't force Lu Ming. They were proud of their status and still wanted to save face. They didn't want to join forces to deal with Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled and took a step forward. The battle god's spear suddenly pierced out. 4 spear lights burst out, piercing toward the 4 existences who had broken through in one go. He actually attacked 4 geniuses who had broken through the first time at the same time. The 4 of them were furious. The 4 of them attacked at the same time, raising their combat strength to the maximum and attacking with their strongest attacks. However, the result was already decided. Even if the 4 of them joined forces, it wouldn't be enough. When the spear lights collided with the attacks of the 4 prodigies, the attacks of the 4 prodigies were directly defeated. The spear lights didn't stop and continued to thrust forward. Oh no! The 4 prodigies' faces changed drastically. At this moment, they were filled with regret. After fighting with Lu Ming, they finally realized how terrifying Lu Ming was. He was too powerful. With Lu Ming's combat strength, he didn't need to launch a sneak attack to deal with Gu Ji. He could crush Gu Ji in a head-on fight. They had been tricked by Gu Ji. Unfortunately, it was too late for regrets. Although they tried their best to resist, they still coughed up blood and were forced to retreat. They were seriously injured. The crowd suddenly quieted down. Many people looked at Lu Ming in shock. They weren't fools or blind. How could they not understand that Lu Ming's combat strength was really powerful? This time, Lu Ming didn't launch a sneak attack. Instead, he attacked the 4 prodigies head-on. He fought against 4 of them alone and injured them with one move. With such combat strength, why would he need to launch a sneak attack to deal with Gu Ji? Could it be that Lu Ming had the combat strength of a second-time extreme break? If he hadn't broken through the second time, how could he have injured 4 heavenly legends who had broken through the first time in one move? Junior brother, Mulin's looked at Lu Ming with sparkling eyes. She didn't expect Lu Ming's combat strength to be so powerful. Could it be that Lu Ming also had a great opportunity over the years? Lu Feng and Yuan Jie's faces also became solemn. Before, they didn't take Lu Ming seriously. But now, they already regarded Lu Ming as their opponent. Lu Ming's performance made him qualified to be their opponent. Of course, he was just qualified. They could also injure 4 first-time extreme break prodigies with one move. Moreover, the 4 first-time extreme break prodigies only suffered some minor injuries. Lu Ming's combat strength wasn't too strong. They were confident that they could deal with him. Lu Ming, you're quite strong. Why don't you exchange a few moves with me? A voice sounded. Lu Feng stepped out. Lu Feng was going to attack. Many people were shocked. Although there were more than 100 people gathered around, Lu Feng and Yuan Jie were undoubtedly the 2 strongest. Leave it to me. Yuan Jie also stepped out. Chapter 5008. Yuan Jie also stepped forward. His powerful aura spread out and locked onto Lu Ming. Lu Feng's eyes flashed coldly. He looked at Yuan Jie unhappily. Yuan Jie, you want to compete with me again? Lu Feng, I'm afraid you're not Lu Ming's match. It's safer for me to fight him. Yuan Jie smiled. Lu Feng was furious. How much stronger do you think you are than me? You're just a little bit stronger than me. If I'm not Lu Ming's match, do you think you can? However, he did lose to Yuan Jie once. He couldn't refute Yuan Jie's words. You don't have to fight. Both of you can fight me together. It'll be troublesome if I fight you one by one. Lu Ming said casually as if he was talking about something insignificant. However, it shocked everyone present. Lu Ming wanted to challenge Yuan Jie and Lu Feng at the same time? Was he crazy or overconfident? Could it be that Lu Ming didn't use his full strength just now? Was he hiding his strength? He doesn't look like a fool. He should know how powerful a second-time extreme break is. However, he still wants to challenge Yuan Jie and Lu Feng. If he's not crazy, he must have something to rely on. But he only has an inferior bloodline. How can he be so powerful? There was a lot of discussion at the scene. At this moment, no one dared to underestimate Lu Ming. How could they underestimate someone who could injure 4 first-time extreme break cultivators in one move? However, they still couldn't believe that an inferior bloodline could be so powerful. Junior brother, Mulins wanted to say something, but when she saw Lu Ming's spirited and confident eyes, she stopped. She knew Lu Ming too well. Perhaps Lu Ming really had the confidence to deal with Yuan Jie and Lu Feng at the same time. The bystanders were confused, puzzled, and surprised, but Yuan Jie and Lu Feng were furious. Lu Ming wanted them to fight him together. How much did he look down on them? If Lu Ming was a peerless genius with an extremely high bloodline level, then it would make sense. However, Lu Ming only had an inferior bloodline. A person with an inferior bloodline didn't take them seriously at all and challenged them at the same time. If news of this spread, they would lose a lot of face. Good, very good. Lu Feng, why don't we join hands this time? Yuan Xie was so angry that he laughed and looked at Lu Feng. All right, I was thinking the same thing. Lu Feng also said coldly. They had grudges against each other, so it was impossible for them to work together. However, for the sake of their own reputation, they decided to work together. Just this once. Both of them muttered in their hearts. Make your move. Lu Ming tilted his long spear downwards as he looked at the two of them. His expression was casual and relaxed. This made Yuan Jie and Lu Feng even more displeased. Kill! Yuan Xie shouted. He took a step forward, causing the void to tremble. Then he slashed his halberd at Lu Ming. At the same time, Lu Feng also made his move. His body was like a gust of wind, shockingly fast. In a flash, he appeared on Lu Ming's right side. Several streaks of sword light pierced towards Lu Ming and the others like lightning. Although the two of them were angry, they didn't dare to underestimate Lu Ming. They attacked with all their might and used their killing moves. The two of them worked together. One of them was powerful and heavy, while the other was as fast as lightning. Their coordination was flawless. If other experts who had broken through the second level were to face this attack, they would probably be injured. The onlookers couldn't help but feel nervous. Their eyes widened as they stared at the battlefield unblinkingly, afraid that they would miss something. Lu Ming was so confident. Would he be able to block this move? Buzz. The war god's spear vibrated, stirring up the void. Several streaks of spear light shot out, piercing towards Yuan Xie and Lu Feng. After a few consecutive explosions, a myriad of forces were stirred up. The surrounding people couldn't help but step back, afraid that they would be swept in by the powerful forces. Mulins was the only one who was covered in a layer of light. She was like a fairy who had descended to the mortal world. She blocked all the forces and stood motionless in the void. Then, the two figures retreated. These two figures were Yuan Xie and Lu Feng. Lu Ming didn't move at all. What? The onlookers were shocked. Not only did Lu Ming block the joint attack of Yuan Xie and Lu Feng, but he also forced the two of them to retreat. This was unbelievable. Terrifying, too terrifying. This was Lu Ming's combat strength. Could it be that Lu Ming could really defeat Yuan Xie and Lu Feng? Was this still an inferior bloodline? How could an inferior bloodline have such powerful combat strength? Is this the power of the emperor level shocking the world? It's really powerful. Lu Ming muttered to himself. He hadn't used his full strength in the previous attack. It was just a test. He already knew that most humans cultivated the monarch-level world-shocking record. This was a supreme technique created by human king Xingxi. This technique was highly compatible with the human bloodline. After successfully cultivating it, one would be able to cultivate a powerful force called the world-shaking force. The emperor level shocking the world was divided into 9 levels. The higher one cultivated it, the more powerful the shocking the world would be. Of course, the higher one cultivated it, the more closely related to one's bloodline. Only those with higher cultivation, purer bloodline, and greater talent would be able to cultivate to a higher level. It was said that once one cultivated the emperor level shocking the world to the 7th level, with some powerful secret techniques, one could break through 3 levels and become an invincible almighty. As for the 8th level, very few people in history had succeeded. The 9th level was almost a legend. Looking at the history of the human race, very few people had succeeded. It was said that both human king Xian Yuan and the Eternal Queen had cultivated the emperor level shocking the world to the 9th level when they were almighty. This technique played a crucial role in the rapid rise of the human race in the Eldritch continent in the last era. This was the most important cultivation technique for humans below the origin realm. Han Yu had told him this when he cultivated under the sacred luminance's holy scroll. Lu Ming speculated that Yuan Jie and Lu Feng should have cultivated to the 6th level of world-shocking records of the emperor level. The power that they had condensed was already very terrifying. However, it was still far from Lu Ming's forbidden power. Yuan Jie and Lu Feng were shocked and furious after being repelled by Lu Ming with one move. Kill! Fight! The two of them shouted again and pushed their battle strength to the limit. They activated their halberd and longsword and continued to attack Lu Ming. The halberd and longsword in their hands were undoubtedly source-grade magic weapons. The firmament divine realm was much wealthier than the heaven destroyer, the demons, or the heavenly human race. They did not lack source-grade magic weapons. Some of the top geniuses almost all had a source-grade magic weapon. It's time to end this, Lu Ming whispered. He had already tested the two of them. The shocking the world was still too weak. There was no point in continuing to test them. Moreover, just now, Lu Ming had already sensed that more powerful people had arrived secretly. That person was obviously secretly observing them. Then he would release more power and lure that stronger expert to attack. This time, he might as well reveal more of his strength and establish his prestige in one fell swoop, saving himself from future troubles. Chapter 5009. Therefore, when Lu Ming made his next move, he used a stronger force. 2 huge spearlights pierced toward Yuan Jie and Lu Feng respectively. The terrifying power instantly shattered their attacks. Yuan Jie and Lu Feng retreated like lightning. They retreated 100 miles before regaining their balance. They couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. This. Gasps could be heard from the crowd. Shocking, truly shocking. Even a blind person could see that Lu Ming had completely crushed Yuan Jie and Lu Feng. What kind of combat power was this to defeat Yuan Jie and Lu Feng so easily? Was this the limit of the second break? This kind of combat power was close to the third break. In the crowd, Lu Weiyang's face turned pale. Damn it, why is Lu Ming so strong? Is Pang Xiao a match for him? Lu Weiyang roared in his heart. At the same time, he felt a strong sense of unease. He wasn't sure if Pang Xiao was Lu Ming's match. Pang Xiao's combat power was undoubtedly strong. He was at the limit of the second break and was close to the third break. He had once fought with a third break and retreated unscathed after more than 10 moves. With Pang Xiao's combat power, he could easily defeat Yuan Jie and Lu Feng when they joined forces. However, he wasn't sure if Lu Ming had used his full strength just now. He never thought that Lu Ming, who had an inferior bloodline, would be so strong. As far as they knew, inferior bloodlines couldn't be this strong. because of their inferior bloodline, it was very difficult to cultivate the emperor-level shocking record to a high level. It was almost impossible. Bloodlines and the emperor-level shocking record complemented each other. Back then, Xianyuan Renwang also had an inferior bloodline. However, through continuous transformations and refinements, his bloodline became stronger and stronger. In the end, he was able to cultivate the emperor-level shocking record to the peak. Lu Ming, on the other hand, clearly had an inferior bloodline, so it was impossible for him to cultivate the record of shocking the world to a high level. Then, how could he have such strong combat strength? Although in the history of the Eldritch continent, there was no lack of people who did not have a high bloodline but had mastered other powerful forces. However, those were too few and could be counted on one hand. Could it be that Lu Ming was like this? At this moment, Yuan Jie and Lu Feng's faces were pale, and their eyes were filled with disappointment. They knew very well that they were no match for Lu Ming. If they continued to fight, the result would not change. Still want to fight? Lu Ming asked faintly. I admit defeat. In the end, Yuan Jie lowered his head. He was still arrogant and principled. Since he had lost, he would admit defeat. Lu Feng didn't want to admit defeat, but when he saw Yuan Jie admit defeat, he clenched his teeth and surrendered. He couldn't lose his composure in front of Mullins and his competitors. Interesting. At this moment, a hearty laugh was heard. Then, a figure appeared in the sky. It was a bearded man. The person who had arrived had a bearded face, but he was not old. He was a young man. Lu Ming was not surprised. Previously, he had sensed that someone had arrived in the dark. It was this person. However, the rest of the people were shocked. Fu Yuan, it's Fu Yuan. Fu Yuan is here. He doesn't seem to be related to Mullins. Could he have heard the news and rushed over? Or did he just pass by? Many people exclaimed. Fu Yuan is here too. Mullins's face turned pale, and she looked worried. Fu Yuan's combat power was too strong. He was an invincible divine master who had broken through the pinnacle 3 times. He was currently the most powerful person in the Zongqing divine realm. In the entire Zongqing divine realm, there were only a handful of people who could be on par with Fu Yuan. Rumor had it that Fu Yuan was a descendant of human King Xingxi. He had the bloodline of human King Xingxi and was extremely talented. Moreover, he loved to fight. He had defeated all the top elites in the Zongqing divine realm. As long as he saw an expert, he could not help but want to fight. Now that he had seen Lu Ming's combat power, how could he hold himself back? This was the reason why Mullins was worried. Although Lu Ming was strong, could he be compared to Fu Yuan? Lu Weiyang, on the other hand, was overjoyed. Finally, someone was going to teach Lu Ming a lesson. Lu Ming is a descendant of human King Xingxi. He has the bloodline of a human king and has broken through the pinnacle 3 times. If you can avoid a fight, don't fight with him. Mullins quickly sent a message to Lu Ming. However, she regretted it the moment she said it. She knew Lu Ming well. If she said that, it might arouse Lu Ming's fighting spirit. Descendant of a human king. As expected, there was a flash in Lu Ming's eyes. He was very interested. Lu Ming was sizing up Fu Yuan, and Fu Yuan was sizing up Lu Ming. The interest and fighting spirit in his eyes were obviously stronger. He had fought with the elites of the Zongqing divine realm and the elites of the Forbidden Lands, but he had never fought with a human with an inferior bloodline. He had watched Lu Ming's fight with Yuan Jie and Lu Feng in the dark. It was unbelievable that a human with an inferior bloodline could have such strong combat power. Moreover, with his keen intuition, he felt that Lu Ming had not used his full strength. This made him even more interested. All the cells in his body were excited, and he could not wait to fight with Lu Ming. Make your move. Fight with me. Fu Yuan could not help but say. Are you also a suitor of Mullins? Lu Ming asked curiously. A suitor of Mullins? Fu Yuan was slightly stunned, then he laughed. Haha, my interests are not that vulgar. I pursue the ultimate combat power and become an unparalleled combat immortal. Your interests are vulgar, many people thought. Lu Ming was one of them. Come on, cut the crap. I know you didn't use your full strength just now. Come on, I hope you can make me happy, Fu Yuan said impatiently. Lu Ming didn't use his full strength just now. Many people found it hard to believe, but since Fu Yuan said so, could it be true? Since you want to fight, I'll keep you company. Lu Ming swung his war god spear and showed his strong combat power. A top elite of the human race. Lu Ming also wanted to know what methods Fu Yuan had. He had fought with the beings of the Forbidden Lands and the ancestral patriarch of the heavenly human race, but he had never fought with a top elite of the human race. Very good, huh? Fu Yuan laughed and a battle axe appeared in his hand. The battle axe was pitch black and incomparably huge, like a door plank. I want to split open the sky. Fu Yuan hollered. His body and axe became one as he slashed toward Lu Ming. A terrifying crack appeared in the void, and a black light slashed towards Lu Ming at a terrifying speed. The power of this attack alone was much stronger than the combined attack of Yuan Jie and Lu Feng. However, Lu Ming did not care too much. He knew that although Fu Yuan's attack seemed powerful, he did not use his full strength. He did not know Lu Ming's true combat power, so this attack was obviously a test. Buzz. Lu Ming swung his war god spear and swept it out. Chapter 50:10. Lu Ming swept out his spear, and an arc of spear light collided with Fu Yuan's battle axe. Clang! The war god spear collided with the battle axe, causing an earth-shattering explosion. Terrifying energy swept out in all directions. This time, even Mulan didn't dare to stand still. She quickly retreated to avoid the energy that swept towards her. As for the others, they retreated even further. At the point of collision, divine light shone brightly. The two figures separated as soon as they collided and retreated a few thousand meters. He blocked it. Many people widened their eyes in shock. Lu Ming had actually blocked Fu Yuan's attack. At least from the previous move, the two of them were evenly matched. Could Lu Ming really have the combat strength of someone who had broken through the third time? Mulan's beautiful eyes were also full of splendor. To be honest, although she knew Lu Ming very well and was very confident in Lu Ming's combat strength had completely exceeded her expectations. Lu Ming actually had such an achievement in the starry sky of the universe where the desolation chi had dried up. It seemed that the starry sky of the universe had also undergone changes in the past few years. Lu Ming must have experienced a lot and obtained a heaven-defying opportunity. Otherwise, how could Lu Ming have such an achievement in the starry sky of the universe? Mulan's mind raced, and many thoughts flashed through her mind. Lu Weiyang, on the other hand, was horrified. Lu Ming has an inferior bloodline. How can he have such combat strength? No, this is impossible, Lu Weiyang roared in his heart. He wished that this was a dream. Unfortunately, he clearly knew that this was real and not a dream. No, Fu Yuan has not used his full strength. He has not used his true trump card yet. The battle axe is just a trick he uses to confuse the enemy. Thinking of this, Lu Weiyang's eyes lit up with hope again. Good, interesting. Again. After Fu Yuan retreated, his battle intent became stronger. He shouted and continued to brandish his battle axe toward Lu Ming. His entire body was shrouded in golden light, and even his battle axe was shrouded in golden light. He launched a storm of attacks at Lu Ming. Lu Ming brandished his spear to block the attacks. Clang, clang, clang. The two of them were astonishingly fast. In a breath's time, they had exchanged dozens of blows. It was still a stalemate. A human who has broken through the desolation stage 3 times only has such combat strength? Lu Ming shook his head slightly. He was a little disappointed. Of course, he had not used his full strength. He had been testing Fu Yuan's strength all this while. Fu Yuan's power was very strong, especially the golden power that shocked the world. It should have reached the 7th level of the Emperor-level shocking world record. Its power was very shocking. Although his power was astonishing, his attack power's attack's power. Overall, he was not as strong as the invincible divine masters of the Yi Immortal, or the invincible divine masters from the Yi Immortal. Could it be that the human race was inferior to the creatures in the Forbidden Lands? Lu Ming felt that it was impossible. If that was the case, how could the human race dominate the Eldritch continent? Are you still hiding your strength? Let me force you a little more. Lu Ming smiled secretly and suddenly increased his strength by a fraction. Buzz. The war god's spear vibrated and a terrifying power burst out. The moment it collided with the battle axe, the terrifying power passed through the battle axe and rushed toward Fu Yuan. Fu Yuan's expression changed. The golden light on his body trembled, and his body involuntarily retreated. On the other hand, Lu Ming's body only swayed slightly. This scene shocked the surrounding onlookers. Lu Ming could actually force Fu Yuan to retreat? Terrifying, too terrifying. Fu Yuan's face also turned solemn. However, the fighting spirit in his eyes was even stronger than before. Good, very good. Lu Ming, you did not disappoint me. You have indeed broken through the extreme limit 3 times. You are qualified to see my strongest killing move. Fu Yuan laughed loudly. Then, the battle axe in his hand disappeared and was replaced by a guqin. It was a guqin. It seemed to be filled with the traces of time, but a terrifying aura emanated from it. A top-notch source-level weapon. With Lu Ming's eyesight, he could naturally tell that it was a top-notch source-level weapon. Fu Yuan's killing move was actually the guqin. Could it be that he was going to play the guqin? It was just that his image was too inappropriate, wasn't it? One could imagine a burly man with a full beard playing the guqin. It was too out of place. However, it was obvious that Fu Yuan's killing move was this guqin. The guqin glowed and floated in front of Fu Yuan. Fu Yuan's expression was solemn as he pressed his hands on the guqin. Clang, clang. The sound of the guqin rang out. It was like the clashing of gold and iron, or the sound of a powerful army. When the guqin rang out, dazzling rays of light burst out from the guqin. Then, these rays of light turned into extremely sharp blades that rushed toward Lu Ming. In the blink of an eye, it was as if hundreds and thousands of sharp blades were rushing toward Lu Ming. This was only the attack on the surface. There was also an unintentional ripple that rushed toward Lu Ming and attacked Lu Ming's soul. There were 2 attacks. One attacked the soul, and the other attacked the body. The power instantly surpassed Fu Yuan's battle axe. It's coming, it's coming. Fu Yuan's killing move is coming. Legend has it that human King Xing Shi used a guqin to dominate the world and suppress forbidden lands. He was invincible. Fu Yuan is indeed a descendant of the human king. His killing move is also based on the guqin. Many people exclaimed. Lu Weiyang's eyes lit up. He was full of anticipation. Fu Yuan's killing move had appeared. He was looking forward to seeing Fu Yuan suppress Lu Ming. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Lu Ming shook his battle god spear and stabbed out hundreds and thousands of spear lights. Hundreds and thousands of spear lights burst out and blocked all the sharp blades. As for the soul attack, it was ineffective against him. His soul was scattered among the 60 trillion cells in his body. Unless one attacked all 60 trillion cells at the same time, it would have a significant impact on his soul. Fu Yuan's eyes narrowed. The golden light on his body shone even brighter and surged toward the guqin. The sound of the guqin rang out again. This time, amidst the colorful light, thousands of soldiers and horses rushed toward Lu Ming. These thousands of soldiers and horses were all covered in heavy armor. They were like soldiers who had been through hundreds of battles. They were like the armies of the human race during the prehistoric era. They were invincible. Interesting. This is the true combat power of someone who has broken through 3 times. Lu Ming revealed a faint smile. At this moment, the strength that Fu Yuan displayed was much stronger than before. This was the demeanor of an invincible divine master. He was even slightly stronger than some of the weaker invincible divine masters from the 3 clans of the Forbidden Lands. However, this kind of combat power was no pressure to the current Lu Ming. Lu Ming didn't even activate the battle character manual. Sky-breaking move. Lu Ming used the sky-breaking move. Spear lights burst out and swept across the world. The thousands of soldiers and horses were constantly defeated by the spear lights. The thousands of soldiers and horses couldn't do anything to Lu Ming. Fu Yuan's expression became more and more serious. His hands moved faster and faster as his attacks became more and more violent. However, all the attacks were blocked by Lu Ming. Prehistoric era. But even so, everyone's expressions were already very interesting. Mulins's beautiful eyes were full of extraordinary splendor. Needless to say, Lu Weiyang's face was already deathly pale without a trace of blood. His mouth was wide open as if something was stuck in his throat. Amazing, amazing, truly amazing. At that moment, Fu Yuan wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth and looked at Lu Ming. Not only did the fighting spirit in his eyes not fade, but it became even more intense. Lu Ming, I've decided that you will be my lifelong rival. In this life, my goal is to defeat you. Next time, I will definitely defeat you. Fu Yuan said loudly. Lu Ming was speechless. Big brother, you don't have to be so serious. However, he could see that Fu Yuan did not have any enmity towards him. It was as if Fu Yuan purely treated him as an opponent. Or rather, Fu Yuan treated him as an opponent who would help him improve, not an enemy. All right, I'll wait for the day you defeat me. Lu Ming smiled. Although he said that, he did not take it to heart. He did not think that Fu Yuan would be able to defeat him in the future, even if Fu Yuan had the human monarch bloodline. This was his belief that he was invincible. You're very confident. I like it. Haha, I suffered a small injury today. I'll treat you to a drink another day. Fu Yuan laughed and waved his hand to put away the guqin. He turned around and left, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. He came suddenly and left without hesitation. Oh no, Pang Xiao. Seeing Fu Yuan leave, Lu Weiyang's expression changed drastically as he thought of Pang Xiao. Previously, he had asked someone to invite Pang Xiao. He had originally planned to use Pang Xiao to suppress Lu Ming. However, even Fu Yuan was no match for Lu Ming. If Pang Xiao came, wouldn't he be asking for a beating? Moreover, he was the one who asked someone to invite him. This meant that he was asking Pang Xiao to be beaten up. What would Pang Xiao do to him then? At the thought of this, Lu Weiyang's face turned pale. Send a voice transmission. Yes, yes, yes. Quickly send a voice transmission. Lu Weiyang hurriedly took out a voice transmission jade talisman and sent a voice transmission to his companion. I hope I can make it in time. Lu Weiyang roared in his heart as he prayed silently. Who else wants to challenge me? Come at me together. Lu Ming's gaze swept across the surroundings as his voice spread across the entire place. You're Lu Ming? You're very arrogant. I'd like to see what makes you so arrogant. At this moment, a cold voice was heard. Upon hearing this figure, Lu Weiyang's expression changed drastically. Oh no, it's Pang Xiao. Pang Xiao has arrived so quickly. A figure appeared in the void. It was a young man in a black robe. He had a hooked nose and a cold gaze that was as sharp as a goshawk's. His gaze fell directly on Lu Ming. It's Pang Xiao. The surrounding people also recognized Pang Xiao and had strange looks on their faces. What is Pang Xiao doing here? Could it be that he wants to fight Lu Ming? But even Fu Yuan was defeated. Isn't Pang Xiao asking for a beating? It was obvious that Pang Xiao did not know that Lu Ming had just fought with Fu Yuan. Lu Ming looked at Pang Xiao and said calmly, That's right. I'm Lu Ming. Very good, very good. Today, I'm going to break your claws, Pang Xiao said coldly. His eyes were sharp and filled with murderous intent. He had heard the news that Lu Ming had dared to hug Mulins in public. This had infuriated him. He had been in seclusion and had immediately ended his seclusion and rushed over. Is that so? I hope you have the ability. Lu Ming said indifferently. Such an attitude infuriated Pang Xiao even more. You hope I have the ability? Ha, you're very confident. Pang Xiao sneered. He glanced at Lu Feng and Yuan Jie and said mockingly, Looks like you've lost? Ha, you're really useless. You can't even deal with an inferior bloodline. Is that so? Then I hope you can avenge us. Lu Feng sneered in response. Yuan Jie was too lazy to answer. They did not remind Pang Xiao that Lu Ming had just defeated Fu Yuan. Pang Xiao's character was not good. He was usually arrogant and overbearing. He had offended many people, and many people wanted him to be beaten. Just you wait, Pang Xiao replied. His disdain grew. He stepped forward and walked toward Lu Ming. He was still very confident. So what if Lu Feng and Yuan Jie had lost? He could easily defeat Lu Feng and Yuan Jie. He was someone who could fight against someone who had broken through 3 levels and come out unscathed. Only one person was the most nervous, and that was Lu Weiyang. He knew very well that Pang Xiao was definitely not Lu Ming's match. The gap between them was huge. Chapter 50:12. Pang Xiao's strongest battle record was being able to retreat unscathed after exchanging more than 10 blows with an invincible Divine Lord. That invincible Divine Lord had not pursued him because he had other matters to attend to. If the battle had continued, Pang Xiao would have lost without a doubt, and he would have lost miserably. Lu Ming, on the other hand, had defeated a powerful invincible Divine Lord head-on. The two of them were on completely different levels. Thus, when he saw that Pang Xiao was about to attack, Lu Weiyang hurriedly rushed forward and stopped Pang Xiao. He squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying and said, "Pang Xiao, in my opinion, let's just forget about it. A person like you doesn't need to lower yourself to the level of someone with an inferior bloodline." Pang Xiao's sharp eyes stared at Lu Weiyang and said, "If it were any other matter, I wouldn't have bothered to pursue a mere inferior bloodline." However, he committed a grave mistake. He actually dared to lay his hands on Mulan's. This is courting death. This matter cannot be forgiven. Lu Weiyang, step aside. Pang Xiao, forget it. Just forget it. Lu Weiyang continued to persuade him. Lu Weiyang, what's wrong with you? You sent someone to call me here, and now you're stopping me. What? Are you afraid that I'm not Lu Ming's match? Pang Xiao's face turned completely cold. It was obvious that he was extremely unhappy. No, I didn't mean that, Lu Weiyang said. He was truly a little afraid of Pang Xiao. Although he had a backer, Pang Xiao's backer was even stronger than his. Pang Xiao was not afraid of him at all. You watch for me. Within 10 moves, I will definitely cripple Lu Ming's claws. Pang Xiao coldly said. A powerful aura radiated from him, forcing Lu Weiyang to retreat. As for Pang Xiao, he continued to walk towards Lu Ming. Seeing that he could not stop Pang Xiao, Lu Weiyang gritted his teeth and shouted, "Brother Pang, before you came, Lu Ming and Fu Yuan had already exchanged blows?" Pang Xiao, who was moving forward, suddenly stopped. His body stiffened for a moment before he slowly turned around and stared at Lu Weiyang. Who did you say? Fu Yuan? Lu and Fu Yuan exchanged blows? Yes. Lu Weiyang could only nod his head. Impossible. Pang Xiao subconsciously felt that it was impossible. However, Lu Weiyang would definitely not lie to him about such things. After asking around, he would know the truth. He then continued to ask, how many moves did they exchange? He had clearly observed Lu Ming just now. Lu Ming was unscathed and had a strong aura. How could he be unscathed after exchanging blows with Fu Yuan? He felt that Lu Ming might have only exchanged 1 or 2 moves with Fu Yuan to test his strength. Unfortunately, Lu Weiyang's answer made his jaw drop. More than 100 moves. Lu Weiyang said. Impossible. Lu Weiyang, you dare to lie to me? Pang Xiao finally could not help but roar. Even he could not remain unscathed after exchanging more than 100 moves with Fu Yuan. How could Lu Ming, who had an inferior bloodline, do it? His first reaction was to think that Lu Weiyang was lying to him. Lu Weiyang was shocked and quickly explained, "No, I didn't lie to you. Everyone here saw it. If you don't believe me, you can ask anyone." Pang Xiao's gaze swept across the others and found that they were looking at him as if they were watching a good show. He knew that Lu Weiyang was telling the truth. Lu Ming could actually exchange blows with Fu Yuan and remain unscathed. Such battle prowess was definitely above his. Damn it. Damn it. Pang Xiao kept roaring in his heart. If Lu Ming had such battle prowess, how could he make a move? If he did not dare to make a move, then wouldn't he become a joke when he came aggressively and said that he would defeat Lu Ming in 10 moves? Shameful. It was too shameful. He was unable to restrain his anger and stood there in a daze. His eyes kept changing and his face kept twisting. Conflicted. Brother Pang, in the battle between Lu Ming and Fu Yuan, not only was he unscathed, he even defeated Fu Yuan. Lu Weiyang reminded him in a soft voice. He saw that Pang Xiao was conflicted and was afraid that Pang Xiao would find Lu Ming to fight. If that happened, he would definitely be defeated by Lu Ming. Rather than being humiliated then, he might as well remind him now. What? Pang Xiao looked at Lu Weiyang in shock and then looked at Lu Ming, thinking that he had heard wrongly. Previously, he thought that it was already incredible that Lu Ming could exchange blows with Fu Yuan and remain unscathed. He never expected that Lu Ming would actually defeat Fu Yuan. He really thought that he was dreaming. However, he knew that all this was very likely to be real. It was impossible for Lu Weiyang to lie in public. No wonder he did not see Fu Yuan. It was most likely that Fu Yuan had been defeated and left. How could an inferior bloodline be so strong? But he could not figure it out. What should he do now? Should he retreat? However, he had come aggressively and confidently. If he ran away before he even made a move, he was destined to become a joke. Lu Feng, Yuan Jie, and the others would definitely not let go of such an opportunity. They would definitely publicize his embarrassing performance. In the future, he would not be able to continue pursuing Mulan's. It would be good enough if he could even raise his head in the Azure Divine Realm. But he would definitely not allow such a thing to happen. Not only did he have to prove himself in front of Mulan's, but he also had to make a name for himself and let everyone know how powerful he was. His mind raced and he quickly came up with an idea. Pang Xiao, right? Why are you still standing there? Didn't you say that you would defeat me in 10 moves? Why aren't you attacking? At that moment, Lu Ming's indifferent voice sounded. Everyone looked at Pang Xiao as if they were watching a good show. They wanted to see how he would respond. If he accepted the challenge, he was destined to be defeated by Lu Ming. If he retreated without a fight, it would be a joke. If he had to blame someone, he could only blame himself for being too confident and speaking too confidently before. Now he was in a dilemma. Lu Ming, right? Do you know the strength of the Pang family in the Azure Divine Realm? We have at least 5 Origin Realm cultivators and a top elite above the Origin Realm. In a few hundred years, they will all awaken. You should know the consequences of offending me. No, you dared to hug Mulan's. You've already offended me. Now, I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself. Pretend to fight with me and lose after 100 moves. Then I'll let bygones be bygones. At that moment, Pang Xiao's voice sounded in Lu Ming's ears. Pang Xiao was sending him a message. He wanted him to pretend to lose to Pang Xiao? Was this guy an idiot? Lu Ming looked at Pang Xiao as if he was looking at an idiot. Lu Ming, you'd better think it through. You should know the consequences of offending me. After the Origin Realm tribulation is over, I'll make sure you suffer a fate worse than death. Pang Xiao continued to threaten him via telepathy. This was the most perfect method he could think of in a hurry. Lu Ming had defeated Fu Yuan. If he could defeat Lu Ming, what would that mean? It would mean that his combat strength had surpassed Fu Yuan's. He could take the opportunity to become famous. Not only would he perform well in front of Mulan's, but he would also be known as an invincible expert. It could be said that he could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Chapter 5013. Pang Xiao also knew that this method was actually very low level. It was actually just a trick, a threat. If it was against other Firmament Divine Realm geniuses, especially those who could defeat Fu Yuan, it was impossible for him to use this trick because it would definitely be useless. However, it was not necessarily the case for Lu Ming. Before he came, he had already learned from Lu Weiyang's friends that Lu Ming came from the Eastern Universe. In the Western Universe, Lu Ming could be said to be alone. He had no relatives and no backing. Without any backing, Lu Ming had to lie down no matter how strong he was. A powerful dragon could not defeat a snake in its old haunts. His Pang family was extremely powerful and had many experts. Although they had sealed themselves during the Origin Tribulation, the Origin Tribulation would be over in a few hundred years. At that time, those Origin Realm experts would awaken. What would Lu Ming be then? He would still be a pushover. Therefore he threatened Lu Ming. However, how could he know that Lu Ming would not be threatened? Lu Ming hated it the most in his life when others threatened him. Haha, Pang Xiao, you actually threatened me and asked me to pretend to lose to you. Ridiculous. You are a genius who has broken through twice. How could you say such a ridiculous joke? Lu Ming laughed loudly and his voice spread throughout the entire place. Rumble. Pang Xiao felt his head explode, as if there was a sudden clap of thunder, almost causing him to faint. His face suddenly turned red. Lu Ming, you deserve to die, Pang Xiao roared in exasperation. He never thought that Lu Ming would actually say out his threat. He originally thought that there was at least a 50% chance that Lu Ming would be afraid of his threat and agree to his request. Even if he did not agree to his request, he would never say out his threat directly because that would offend him. It would be a situation where he would fight to the death. But now, not only did he lose face in front of Mulin's, he also lost face in front of his competitors. Soon, this matter would spread throughout the entire Azure Divine Realm. He, Pang Xiao, would become a true joke. This was even more laughable than him being defeated by Lu Ming. Everyone looked at Pang Xiao with disdain. Pang Xiao wished he could dig a hole in the ground and hide in it. Damn it, it's all Lu Ming's fault. It's all because of that damned bastard. Pang Xiao roared madly in his heart, and his face twisted into a ferocious expression. At this moment his hatred for Lu Ming was monstrous. But did Lu Ming care? If others didn't offend him, he wouldn't offend them either. However, Pang Xiao had offered himself up to be slapped. How could he refuse? As for the expert behind Pang Xiao, that would be hundreds of years later. Hundreds of years later he would take Mulin's back to the Heaven Destroyer base. At that time, Fei Huang would wake up and there would be the experts of the Heaven Destroyer. Why would he be afraid of the expert behind Pang Xiao? He wasn't even afraid of the creatures in the Forbidden Grounds. He had only offended Pang Xiao's faction, not the entire human race in the Azure Divine Realm. Moreover, Mulin's master was a top figure in the Azure Divine Realm. When the time came, would Mulin's help him? Lu Ming, just you wait. Pang Xiao left a harsh sentence and turned to leave. Before leaving, he glanced coldly at Lu Weiyang. This time, the reason why he was so embarrassed was entirely because of Lu Weiyang. Otherwise, why would he come here to embarrass himself when he was cultivating in seclusion? Lu Weiyang shuddered when Pang Xiao glanced at him coldly. His face suddenly turned pale and he revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. Lu Ming didn't stop Pang Xiao from leaving. There was no need to stop him. What he said just now was more effective than torturing Pang Xiao. After Pang Xiao left, Lu Weiyang also left. Goodbye. Goodbye. Then the others also left. Why would they continue to stay? To embarrass themselves? Even a fool could see that the relationship between Lu Ming and Mulin's was unusual. Lu Ming hugged Mulin's before, but Mulin's didn't seem angry at all. What if they tried? It was good enough that they didn't break their limbs. Would they continue to stay and be the third wheel? In the blink of an eye, no one was left. Only Lu Ming, Han Yu, and Mulin's maids were left. Brother Lu, I'll also take my leave. Han Yu cupped her fists and stuttered. She was mainly too surprised. She was surprised by the relationship between Lu Ming and Mulin's, and even more shocked by Lu Ming's combat strength. Lu Ming's combat strength was completely beyond her expectations. What did she just see? Lu Ming actually defeated Fu Yuan. Oh my god, she couldn't stay calm at all. After Han Yu left, the maids also found excuses to leave. They weren't stupid. They knew that the relationship between Lu Ming and Mulin's was unusual, and they hadn't seen each other for a long time. Naturally, they wouldn't stay and get in the way. Soon, only Lu Ming and Mulin's were left in the vicinity of Sky Orchid Garden. Lu Ming walked over and grabbed Mulin's hand. Mulin's body trembled slightly and she let Lu Ming grab her hand. Senior Sister Mulin's, long time no see. Senior Sister has become more and more beautiful. Lu Ming looked into Mulin's eyes affectionately and said, Junior brother, you're still so glib. Have you deceived many girls over the years? Mulin said. Although she said that, her heart was as sweet as honey. Lu Ming's attitude towards her was completely different from before. It was said that distance makes the heart grow fonder. It seemed to be true. Of course not. All these years, Junior brother has been thinking about Senior Sister. Lu Ming said affectionately. The two of them hadn't seen each other for a long time, so what followed was naturally tender and sweet words. After a long time, by the way, senior sister, Huang Ling left with senior sister. Where is she now? Is she also in the Azure Divine Realm? Seeing that it was about time, Lu Ming asked the question in his heart. The reason why he didn't ask Huang Ling at the beginning was, of course, because he was afraid that Mulins would be jealous. Huang Ling sighed. Hearing Lu Ming mention Huang Ling, Mulin sighed. Lu Ming's heart tightened, and a bad premonition arose spontaneously. Could it be that Huang Ling had met with misfortune? Lu Ming didn't dare to think further and hurriedly asked, Senior Sister Mulins, could it be that Huang Ling has already? His voice was filled with worry. Junior brother, don't think too much. Huang Ling might not have met with misfortune. She has fallen into some ancient ruins. Mulins said. Fallen into some ancient ruins? Senior Sister Mulins, what's going on? What happened to you back then? Lu Ming continued to ask. Junior brother, don't be anxious. I'll tell you slowly. Back then, Huang Ling and I went on an adventure together and accidentally entered an ancient teleportation platform. We didn't expect the teleportation platform to be activated by accident. Huang Ling and I were teleported away by the teleportation platform to an uninhabited continent. We also found that we couldn't be teleported back. We waited on that continent fragment for decades. Seeing that no one came, we could only continue forward. Immediately, Mulins briefly recounted her experiences over the years. Chapter 50:14. Mulins and Huang Ling had taken the same path as Lu Ming. Mulins and Huang Ling had been teleported to the first continent fragment. They had wanted to take the teleportation array back, but unfortunately, the other end of the teleportation array had exploded. They could not return, so they had waited on the continent fragment. They had wanted to wait for Lu Ming on the other end to discover that they were missing, repair the teleportation array, and bring them back. Unfortunately, Lu Ming and Lu Ming's acquaintances had not been able to repair the teleportation array at that time. They had waited for decades without seeing Lu Ming, so they could only continue to move forward through the teleportation array. Halfway through, they had come to a stone house and obtained a heaven-defying opportunity there. Not only had they obtained several treasures, but they had also absorbed the creation jade liquid in the creation jade pool. Their bodies had undergone earth-shattering changes. Not only had their cultivation improved greatly, but their talent and potential had also undergone earth-shattering changes. They had stayed in the stone house for a few years before continuing on their journey to the Western universe. At that time, the universe ruins had not yet recovered, and the creatures of the Forbidden Lands had not yet appeared. The entire Western universe was dead silent. They had carefully wandered in the Western universe, trying to find a way back. In the end, they had mistakenly entered an ancient ruin. They had stayed in that ruin for many years. In the end, Huang Ling had been trapped in that ruin, and Mulins had luckily escaped. When Mulins had left the ruin, she had discovered that the creatures of the Forbidden Lands had already appeared in the universe. Although there were few of them, they were very powerful. Mulins had not dared to meet these creatures of the Forbidden Lands. She had carefully wandered the universe. Later, she had accidentally opened the seal of the Tsangqing Divine Realm. After that, Mulins had naturally stayed in the Tsangqing Divine Realm and had been accepted as a disciple by an important figure. Through Mulins's narration, Lu Ming had a timeline in his heart that had become clearer and clearer. In the beginning, Mulins and Huang Ling had entered the ancient teleportation path and obtained the heaven-defying opportunity on the ancient teleportation path. Then they had come to the Western universe. At that time, the creatures in the Forbidden Lands of the Western universe had yet to awaken, the universe had yet to recover, and the great calamity of the origins had yet to descend. Then, the two girls accidentally entered an ancient ruin and stayed there for many years. During this time, Huang Ling was trapped and Mulins managed to escape. When Mulins escaped, the creatures of the forbidden area had already begun to appear, but their numbers were still very small. Because at this time, the universe began to recover, and the cultivation conditions became better. Then, Mulins unintentionally opened the seal of the Ashen Cyan Divine Realm, and the humans of the Ashen Cyan divine realm were born. After many years, the expert of the 9 demonic spider clan broke into the ancient teleportation path. Then, Dandan repaired the teleportation array and the 9 demonic spider appeared in the universe. From the looks of it, the creatures of the Forbidden Lands in the Western universe woke up earlier than the ones in the Eastern universe. A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind and he asked, "Senior sister, where is the ancient ruin that Huang Ling is trapped in? Is it dangerous?" Lu Ming was really worried. According to Mulin's, Huang Ling had been trapped in that place for tens of thousands of years. Lu Ming could not help but be worried. It's hard to say whether it's dangerous or not. Over the years, I've read a lot of information and finally found out the origin of that ruin. That ruin should be a sacred place of the demon race of the primordial world of the last era. Huang Ling has the Phoenix bloodline. The Phoenix is one of the strongest races of the demon race of the primordial world. I believe Huang Ling should be fine. Mulin's explained. The sacred place of the primordial world demon race. Lu Ming was shocked. The primordial world demon race was one of the 3 strongest races of the primordial world. Lu Ming could not help but worry. Although Huang Ling had the Phoenix bloodline, he knew very well that it was only the Phoenix bloodline of the minor Kiliacosm. The demon race of the universe and the minor Kiliacosm had impure bloodlines. It was very likely that they evolved from the flesh and blood of the primordial world demon race after they died in battle. There was a huge difference between them and the real primordial world demon race. Even if it was the Phoenix bloodline, it was a mixed blood Phoenix bloodline. It was worlds apart from the Phoenix of the primordial world. Could this be Huang Ling's protective amulet? Everything was hard to say. Lu Ming could not wait to rush over and rescue Huang Ling. Where is the sacred place of the primordial world demon race? How long will it take to set off from here? Lu Ming asked hurriedly. He did not plan to let Mulin's go with him. He planned to go alone to deal with Huang Ling. However, how could Mulin's not know what Lu Ming was thinking? Junior brother Lu Ming, you want to go alone to deal with Huang Ling, right? I know you're eager to save her, and so am I. However, if we go there now, we won't be able to enter the sacred place of the demon race. Mulin said. Won't be able to enter? Senior sister, what's going on? Over the years, through all kinds of information and personal investigations, I discovered that the sacred place of the primordial world demon race is shrouded in layers of restrictions. The restrictions will only weaken at specific times. That is the time to enter. The last time Huang Ling and I entered, it happened to be when the restrictions were at their weakest. The next time the restrictions weaken, it will be a year later. This time, I broke through to the second extreme break this time, and I also plan to enter the sacred place of the demon race a year later to deal with Huang Ling, Mulin's explained. A year later, Lu Ming muttered, feeling a little helpless. It seemed like he could only wait a year later. More than 10,000 years had passed. If Huang Ling was still alive, he believed that 1 year would not make a difference. Junior brother Lu Ming, how did you get here? Your battle prowess has actually broken through the boundary 3 times. You really surprised your senior sister. You must have experienced a lot over the years. Mulin's changed the topic and looked at Lu Ming confidently. After more than 10,000 years, Lu Ming was still the same Lu Ming, but his temperament had changed a lot. She wanted to imprint Lu Ming's appearance deeply in her heart. Ever since you left, Lu Ming also briefly recounted his experiences over the years. Although Lu Ming had already briefly recounted it, Mulan was still shaken to the core when she listened to him. After that, Lu Ming did not return to his residence. Instead, he stayed in Sky Orchid Garden. When the news spread, the hearts of many geniuses in the Tsongqing divine realm were broken. Lu Ming was staying in Sky Orchid Garden and had an unusual relationship with Mulin's. What would happen between the two of them? The thought of what might happen between the two of them made the young geniuses go crazy with jealousy. They wished that they could replace Lu Ming. Among them, the one who was the most upset was Lu Weiyang. After Lu Weiyang returned, he could not sit still and could not eat or sleep. This time, Pang Xiao had suffered a great humiliation because of him. Would he bear a grudge against him? Would he seek revenge? The more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. Lu Ming, it's all because of Lu Ming. Why is this bastard with an inferior bloodline so strong? Damn it! Lu Weiyang roared in his heart and cursed Lu Ming fiercely. Then he thought of a way to prevent Pang Xiao from taking revenge. Chapter 50-15. Young Master Lu, what should we do now? I'm afraid that Pang Xiao will hold a grudge against us. A young man next to Lu Weiyang said worriedly. Of course, we'll take the initiative to find Pang Xiao and apologize to him. Lu Weiyang said. This time, Pang Xiao suffered a great humiliation. He might not accept our apology easily. The young man was still worried. Under normal circumstances, that would be the case. However, if I have a way to let him take revenge on Lu Ming, or even kill Lu Ming, then Pang Xiao won't blame us. Lu Weiyang said, his eyes flashing with a hint of conspiracy. Young Master Lu, do you have a plan? The young men's eyes lit up. That's right. Let's go find Pang Xiao. Lu Weiyang said. However, when Lu Weiyang and the others saw Pang Xiao's eyes were extremely cold and he almost attacked them. However, when Lu Weiyang said that he had a way to deal with Lu Ming, Pang Xiao's attitude improved a lot. You said that you have a way to deal with Lu Ming? What is it? Tell me. If you dare lie to me, even that grandfather of yours won't be able to protect you. Pang Xiao's voice was cold. Brother Pang, don't worry. According to my plan, Lu Ming will most likely die. Even if he has the battle strength of an invincible divine lord, can he deal with multiple invincible divine lords at the same time? Lu Weiyang sneered. Hurry up and tell me. What's the plan? Pang Xiao urged anxiously. Brother Pang, you should know about Zhu Tian, right? Lu Weiyang said. Nonsense. Who doesn't know the top expert of the 9 demonic spider race, Zhu Tian? But did Lu Ming offend Zhu Tian? Pang Xiao said. Zhu Tian's younger brother, Zhu Shi, died at the hands of Lu Ming. Moreover, one of Zhu Shi's top source-level divine herbs was also snatched away by Lu Ming. Lu Weiyang sneered. Pang Xiao's eyes lit up. He understood what Lu Weiyang meant. If he revealed this information to Zhu Tian would never let Lu Ming go. He would probably come straight to Cangqing Immortal Realm. However, although Zhu Tian is strong, I'm afraid he can't do anything to Lu Ming by himself. Pang Xiao said. Zhu Tian's strength was absolutely astonishing. There was no doubt about this, because Zhu Tian had defeated other invincible god lords more than once. It could be said that as an invincible god lord who had broken through 3 levels, Zhu Tian's combat strength was also top-notch. However, one must not forget that Lu Ming had defeated Fu Yuan not long ago. Zhu Tian might not be able to defeat Lu Ming. Brother Pang, you don't have to worry. Zhu Tian isn't the only invincible god lord in the 9 demonic spider race. Zhu Tian has a good relationship with many invincible god lords, so Zhu Tian might not be the only one coming. Even if it's only Zhu Tian, it's fine. I think that Moken of the extreme evil race also died at the hands of Lu Ming. The 2 source-level divine herbs that Moken had also fallen into the hands of Lu Ming. The extreme evil race won't let this matter go. Lu Weiyang said, looking like he had the pearl of wisdom in his hands. Moken also died at the hands of Lu Ming? Are you sure about this? Pang Xiao was a little suspicious. Most likely. There's absolutely no mistake. Lu Weiyang immediately told him about how Lu Ming had met Moken and the others along the way, and how Lu Ming had found an excuse to leave for a while. At first, I didn't suspect Lu Ming too much because Moken was in existence who had broken through 2 levels and there were other experts present. I didn't think that Lu Ming could deal with Moken and the others, but it's different now. Lu Ming actually defeated Fu Yuan. With such combat strength, he could easily kill Moken and the others. I'm sure that Lu Ming left at that time to kill Moken and the others and take the 2 source-level divine herbs. Lu Weiyang said firmly. He was 100% sure that it was Lu Ming. If it were him, with the strength of an invincible divine master, he would definitely not let Moken and the others go. Those were 2 source-level divine herbs. How precious were source-level divine herbs? Even Origin Realm experts would be tempted, especially for peak divine masters. They could greatly increase the speed and probability of breaking through to the origin realm. Which peak divine master wouldn't be tempted after knowing this? In that case, Moken must have died at the hands of Lu Ming. Very good. Lu Weiyang, if you can use the 9 demonic spider and the extreme evil race to kill Lu Ming this time, the grudge between us will be written off. Pang Xiao said. After saying that, a strong killing intent flashed in his eyes. This killing intent was naturally targeted at Lu Ming. Brother Pang, do you have a way to send the news to the Zhu Tian and the extreme evil race? Lu Weiyang asked joyfully. Don't worry. It won't be long before the 9 demonic spider and the extreme evil race arrive. Pang Xiao said coldly. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had stayed in Heavenly Orchid Garden for more than 10 days. During these 10 days, Lu Ming discovered how extraordinary Mulin's was. Mulin's bloodline was very similar to that of the people in the Azure Divine Realm. It was very pure and high level. It constantly emitted a strong pressure to people with inferior bloodlines like Lu Ming. Of course, Lu Ming could ignore this pressure if he used a little forbidden power. The reason why Mulan had such a powerful and pure bloodline was because she had absorbed the Fortune Jade Nectar on the ancient teleportation path and evolved. According to Mulin's, the Phoenix spirit had also undergone a transformation. Her human and Phoenix bloodlines were greatly improved at the same time. In addition, Lu Ming was shocked by the few treasures of Mulan. Their levels were definitely very high, especially one of the gemstones. Lu Ming couldn't see how powerful it was. He only felt that it was unfathomable. Lu Ming heard from Han Yu that Mulin's had once used this gem to open the seal of the Azure Divine Realm. One day, Han Yu suddenly looked for Lu Ming and informed him of a piece of news. Outside the Chongqing Divine Realm, there was a powerhouse who challenged Lu Ming by name. Challenging me? Who is it? Lu Ming asked curiously. It's the 9 demonic spider and the extreme evil race. Han Yu said worriedly. The 9 demonic spider and the extreme evil race? Lu Ming frowned slightly. He thought of Zhu Shi and Moken. Did something happen? The leader of the 9 demonic spider is Zhu Tian. The leader of the extreme evil race is Mo Sha. They want you to get out and die. Brother Lu, you must be careful. Han Yu reminded him. Zhu Tian and Mo Sha, why are they challenging you, junior brother? Mulin's expression also changed. These two people were both invincible divine masters. Especially Zhu Tian. He had defeated other invincible divine masters more than once. In the Azure Divine Realm, there were invincible divine masters who had been defeated by Zhu Tian. Mo Sha of the extreme evil race was also a terrifying person. His methods were extremely cruel and unpredictable. He was very difficult to deal with. When did Lu Ming offend these two experts? Even though Lu Ming had the combat power to defeat Fu Yuan, Mulin's couldn't help but worry. It seems that something has happened. How did they know? Right, Lu Ming? Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Chapter 50:16. Lu Ming immediately thought of Lu Weiyang. Lu Weiyang had seen him kill Zhu Shi with his own eyes. There was also Moken. Since he knew that Lu Ming had the power of an invincible divine master, it wasn't hard for him to guess that Lu Ming had left halfway to kill Moken. Not only Lu Weiyang, Han Yu also thought of it. But Han Yu and the others had no reason to betray Lu Ming, so only Lu Weiyang was left. Are there many people from the two races? Lu Ming asked. There are at least dozens of people from the two races and they are all experts. I guess that besides Zhu Tian and Mo Sha, there might be other experts who have broken through the 3rd level. Lu Ming, don't be rash, Han Yu said. Han Yu said. She wanted to remind Lu Ming not to accept the challenge. Junior brother, I think there is no need to accept the challenge. Anyway, the Chongqing Divine Realm is protected by a powerful array. They can't come in. Let them guard outside. Mulan's words were more direct. Don't worry. I won't accept the challenge. Lu Ming smiled. He was already past the age of being impulsive. He wouldn't fight to the death just because someone cursed him. Although he wasn't afraid of the other party, why would he fight if he didn't have to? Wouldn't it be better to let the other party curse him outside? After that, Lu Ming continued to live in Heavenly Orchid Garden and ignored the outside world. But as time passed, the news had spread throughout the Tsongqing Divine Realm. Outside the Tsongqing Divine Realm, dozens of experts from the 9 demonic spider and the extreme evil race gathered and cursed Lu Ming every day. It's been a few days. Lu Ming still hasn't accepted the challenge? I heard that Lu Ming's power is amazing. He defeated Fu Yuan. Why would he be afraid of him? Many people were talking about it. During this time, Lu Ming, Lu Feng, Yuan Jie, and the others fought over Mulans, and Lu Ming defeated Fu Yuan. The news had already spread. Lu Ming's name shook the entire Azure Divine Realm. An inferior bloodline had actually defeated Fu Yuan, who possessed the bloodline of the Holy Luminance. This was truly unbelievable. Therefore, when the elites of the 9 demon spider and the extreme evil race came to challenge Lu Ming, it shocked the entire Tsongqing godly realm. In my opinion, Lu Ming is just afraid and doesn't dare to accept the challenge. That's right. Although he defeated Fu Yuan, I'm guessing that it was mostly due to luck. Either that, or he has some kind of explosive secret technique. After using it once, the aftereffects are huge, or he can only last for a short time. It's normal that he doesn't dare to accept the challenge. He's too cowardly. He's an expert who's broken through 3 times, yet he doesn't dare to accept the challenge when someone is right at his doorstep. He's been insulted every day and doesn't dare to accept the challenge. What a shame. Such words were secretly spread throughout the Tsongqing godly realm. Of course, these words were secretly spread by people sent by Pang Xiao and Lu Weiyang. They wanted to provoke Lu Ming into making a move. If Lu Ming didn't make a move, they would also be very anxious. Such words also reached Lu Ming's ears through Mulan's servant girls. However, Lu Ming smiled faintly and didn't seem to care. He immediately knew that these words were spread by people with ulterior motives to provoke him into making a move. He wouldn't let these people have their way. Wasn't it better to stay in Heavenly Orchid Garden and cultivate? Every month he would receive 8 drops of Origin Spirit medicinal liquid and spend the rest of his time comprehending Genesis techniques. His progress was extremely fast. Through this period of comprehension, his understanding of Genesis techniques had deepened, and his understanding was much clearer than before. He firmly believed that if he continued to improve like this, he might be able to comprehend Genesis techniques before breaking through to the Origin realm. There were very few people who could comprehend Genesis techniques before breaking through to the Origin realm. For the time being, apart from Bone Demon, Xian Yanqing, Gu Changfeng, Yi Immortal and a few others, he hadn't seen anyone else who could comprehend Genesis techniques at the Almighty stage. Even the peerless geniuses in the Forbidden Zones hadn't seen them before. Gu Changfeng, Bone Demon, Xian Yanqing and the others still relied on the 4 statues in Purple Heaven Utopia. Lu Ming's heart ached when he thought of the 4 statues. At this moment, he knew that the 4 statues were most definitely top-notch treasures. They were extremely rare. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so few people in the universe who could comprehend Genesis techniques at the Almighty stage. Unfortunately, the 4 statues couldn't be taken away at that time. Later, when Purple Heaven Utopia collapsed, the 4 statues drifted into the depths of space and no one knew where they ended up. Just like that, Lu Ming stayed in Heavenly Orchid Garden to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. Lu Ming cultivated quietly, while Lu Weiyang and Pang Xiao were furious. Lu Ming is trash. He doesn't even dare to accept the challenge. What a piece of trash. Pang Xiao cursed angrily. Inferior bloodline is inferior bloodline. He's as timid as a mouse. I really overestimated him before. Lu Weiyang also cursed angrily. If Lu Ming didn't go out, wouldn't their plan to get someone else to do the dirty work for them be impossible? They were so angry that they couldn't wait to drag Lu Ming out and throw him in front of Zhu Tian and the others. Lu Weiyang, do you have any ideas to force Lu Ming to go out? Pang Xiao looked at Lu Weiyang. Force Lu Ming to go out? Lu Weiyang pondered for a while. After a while, Lu Weiyang's eyes lit up. I have an idea. It's not impossible to force Lu Ming to go out. Lu Weiyang said. What is it? Tell me quickly. Pang Xiao hurriedly urged. Mullins. Lu Weiyang's eyes flashed with viciousness. The relationship between Lu Ming and Mullins is obviously unusual. If Mullins is caught by Zhu Tian and the others, do you think Lu Ming can sit still? I'm afraid he will take the initiative to kill Zhu Tian and the others. But Brother Pang, you are deeply in love with Mullins. I'm afraid you won't be willing to do that. That sword man actually likes an inferior bloodline. Sooner or later, I will make him pay the price. Okay, let's do it. But how can we make Mullins fall into the hands of Zhu Tian and the others? Mullins has been living in the Heavenly Orchid Garden with Lu Ming. How can we make them separate? Pang Xiao said. Mullins and Du Ling are very close, aren't they? They are as close as sisters. As long as we take Du Ling and force her to send a message to Mullins and let her leave the Azure Divine Realm alone, we can ask Zhu Tian and the others to take Mullins and force Lu Ming to take action. The difficulty is how to communicate with Zhu Tian and the others and let them cooperate. Lu Weiyang said. Leave it to me. Pang Xiao said. Lu Weiyang's eyes flashed. It seemed that Pang Xiao had a good relationship with the creatures in the Forbidden Lands. There's one more thing that is very important. After this is done, we can't let Du Ling live, lest she leaves behind any evidence. Lu Weiyang said, his eyes flashing with a ruthless light. Do I need you to tell me that? Let's start. Pang Xiao sneered. A few days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, Mullins received a message from Du Ling. The message said that Mullins was to go to a certain place alone. If she went with another person, Du Ling would be in great danger. Something happened to Du Ling. Mullins's face darkened. Du Ling was very close to her. When she first arrived in the Azure Divine Realm, she was unfamiliar with the place and the first person she met was Du Ling. She couldn't ignore Du Ling's accident. Chapter 50-17. Mullins didn't expect that all of this was a plot against Lu Ming. She simply thought that something had happened to Du Ling. Therefore, Mullins didn't tell Lu Ming this news. She quietly left Sky Orchid Garden and headed out of Tsongqing Godly Realm. Mullins purposely avoided Zhu Tian, Mo Sha, and the others. However, not long after she left Tsongqing Godly Realm, she was surrounded. Those who surrounded her were Zhu Tian, Mo Sha, and the others. I've been tricked. As soon as she saw Zhu Tian, Mo Sha, and the others, Mullins knew that she had been tricked. These people wanted to take her down and force Lu Ming to come out and fight. Mullins certainly wouldn't give up. She tried her best to break out of the encirclement. However, although she had the combat strength of a second-time GG breaker, there was a huge difference between a third-time GG breaker and a second-time GG breaker. Moreover, there was more than one third-time GG breaker. Mullins couldn't break out of the encirclement. She didn't even have time to transmit her voice before she was captured by Zhu Tian and Mo Sha. Lu Ming, bad news. On this day, Han Yu rushed into Sky Orchid Garden with a pale face. Lu Ming's heart sank. Han Yu, what happened? Senior Sister Mullins has been captured by Zhu Tian and Mo Sha. Han Yu hurriedly said. What? Lu Ming was shocked. He quickly spread out his spiritual awareness and covered Mullins' room. As expected, he found that Mullins' room was empty. Lan Xiang, what's going on? When did your miss leave? Lu Ming's figure flashed and appeared in front of one of Mullins' maids. Lu Ming and Mullins were cultivating in different rooms. Therefore, Lu Ming didn't know when Mullins left. I don't know. I don't know when Miss Mullins left either. Lan Xiang shook her head repeatedly. Something must have happened. Otherwise, Senior Sister Mullins would have informed me when she left. Lu Ming frowned. Lu Ming, what should we do? Zhu Tian, Mo Sha, and the others said that they want you to go out and suffer. Otherwise, it will be disadvantageous to Mullins. Han Yu said. Since they want to die, let's grant them their wish. Let's go. Lu Ming's voice was extremely cold. He had not seen Mullins for many years, and he was filled with guilt towards her. Now, these people were actually using Mullins to threaten him. He was completely enraged. Originally, he did not want to pay attention to these people, But now, he wanted to kill them. Immediately, Han Yu led the way and rushed toward the exit with Lu Ming. Outside one of the exits of the Azure Divine Realm, there were two groups of people facing each other in the void. One of them was the 9-in demon spider and the extreme evil race led by Zhu Tian and Emo Sha. The other group was the human experts of the Firmament Divine Realm. Many people in the Firmament Divine Realm knew that Mulins had fallen into the hands of Zhu Tian and Emo Sha. They were furious and rushed over. However, the human experts did not attack, mainly because they were afraid of Zhu Tian and Emo Sha. Although they had the advantage in numbers, no one was a match for Zhu Tian and Emo Sha. The main reason was that there were no experts who had broken through 3 times. Zhu Tian, Emo Sha, you are despicable. How dare you use a woman to threaten Lu Ming? Hand over Mulins. Suddenly, a young man from the human clan rushed out with large strides. It's Zhao Wuji. Zhao Wuji is here. The human experts were overjoyed. The human clan finally had an invincible divine master who had broken through 3 times. Ridiculous. That Lu Ming killed and stole the treasure. He is the despicable one. Now, he is a coward hiding in the Firmament Divine Realm. Hand over Lu Ming and we will release Mulins. Emo Sha sneered. Bullsh *T. I will kill you now. Zhao Wuji shouted coldly. He did not stop and attacked Emo Sha. Emo Sha was not afraid and attacked back. Boom, boom, boom. The two exchanged more than 10 blows, but there was no clear winner. This was not the first time the two of them had fought. Their strength was evenly matched, and it was impossible to determine the victor in a short period of time. Emo Sha, do you want me to help you? Zhu Tian chuckled at the side. Zhu Tian, your opponent is me. Another figure stepped out from the human clan. It was a young man with a big beard. Fu Yuan. Zhu Tian frowned and a trace of fear appeared in his eyes. Zhu Tian, you dare to capture our people near the Azure Divine Realm? How dare you? I think you're courting death. Fu Yuan shouted. That's right. Hand her over. Otherwise, all of you will stay here. The others shouted as well. Mulins was a great benefactor of the Firmament Divine Realm. She was the disciple of an important figure in the Firmament Divine Realm. Zhu Tian and the others had captured Mulins in the Firmament Divine Realm. Most of them were furious and wanted to kill Zhu Tian and the others. With Fu Yuan and Zhao Wuji backing them up, they were not afraid. There were many human clan experts and there were hundreds of them. They outnumbered the 9-in demonic spiders and the extreme evil clan. If something happened, they might be able to take down the other party. The 9-in demonic spiders and the extreme evil clan members' faces changed. They retreated and gathered together to prepare for a big battle. Mulins has been sent away by us. If you dare to act rashly and something happens to us, Mulins will be buried with us. Zhu Tian's cold voice rang out. The experts of the human race were shocked. They couldn't help but stop. They were afraid of taking action. Mulins was in their hands and they had to be careful. Even Zhao Wuji, who was fighting with Emo Sha, stopped. You are despicable. Many people shouted. Hand over Lu Ming. After we kill Lu Ming and avenge my brother Zhu Shi, we will naturally hand over Mulins. Zhu Tian said coldly. You want to take my life? Let's see if you have what it takes. A cold voice rang out. A figure flashed in the air and a young figure appeared. It was Lu Ming. Lu Ming is finally here. Ah, that's great. Lu Weiyang and Pang Xiao were among the crowd. They would not miss such a lively scene. When they saw Lu Ming, they were overjoyed. Zhu Tian, Emo Sha, and the others' gazes were as sharp as swords as they stared at Lu Ming. You are Lu Ming. Zhu Tian's gaze was extremely cold. He did not hide his cold killing intent. I am Lu Ming. Lu Ming replied coldly. Very well, I'll take your head. Zhu Tian closed in on Lu Ming. His terrifying cold aura locked onto Lu Ming. Zhu Tian, leave Lu Ming to me. On the other side, Emo Sha also closed in on Lu Ming. It was as if Lu Ming was a fish on the chopping block in their eyes. Apart from Zhu Tian and Emo Sha, the 9-in demonic spider and the extreme evil race. That's right, They did not know that Lu Ming had defeated Fu Yuan. Pang Xiao did not tell them. Pang Xiao did not tell them about Lu Ming's combat strength because he was helping Lu Ming. He had his own plans. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.